Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Super Old Game Saturday. You're hearing a bit of a different take of the GameCube intro. You hold the Z button when you turn the console on for that, but the same Game Boy Advance indication for tonight's show. Welcome to the show. It's the end of the week, thank God. Easter's coming up tomorrow. For our Easter show and also for our annual of, actually it's going to be 2 April Fool's Day programs. The Weekly Stop for Classic Game Goodness is here, and tonight we got one that all of you in chat wanted to see. Kind of, it seems like a little bit of a morbid curiosity case. There's also my case a little bit too on this one. As I mentioned, we do an annual April Fool's Day show, though for this year we're doing 2. Our next one's going to be next week. All our past ones are going to be down below. Just to give an idea of what that is, to have some fun with the holiday, including the game you're seeing on the screen, which came out on the holiday, I'll get into that in a second, we take a look at a game that either is bad, maybe has a bad reputation, maybe it's a question of is it good or not. That seems like where this one lied. It was mentioned a couple times on the show. We played Twisted Metal on the PlayStation, where it was brought up, almost as a joke, and I know we talked about it, I believe, when we played Bakugan Defenders of the Core last year. But a lot of other gaming streams would say, yeah, we don't want to play this, we're not going to give it any time. Not Super Bowl Game Saturday. I took that as a challenge. I said, let's take a look at this one. Maybe it's a diamond in the rough, and you know what? If you ask me, it might be, actually. This is Digimon Racing. It came out in Japan on April Fool's Day of 2004, and then in Europe on April 30th of 2004. The US got it a lot later, in September 13th of 2004, for Game Boy Advance. It is a Game Boy Advance exclusive game, published by Bandai and developed by Kryptonite Games. This is a company, I'd heard the name of them before. I want to look back and say, who are they? What was their background? As it turned out, they were a part of Real Time Associates, a company I don't think we played anything of yet. This was like an offshoot of theirs, Real Time Associates Seattle. They were then bought by Amaze Entertainment in 1999 and then renamed to Kryptonite Games here. They made a big focus on a lot of handheld releases, you can get the sense of that. And then later they were formed into Amaze Entertainment. You did see that a little bit on the intro here for this. As far as their past credits, they made the Berenstain Bears Camping Adventure for the Game Gear, Return of the Jedi for the Game Gear, a game I grew up with and did not like at all, that being Rugrats Scavenger Hunt for Nintendo 64. But they also made Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and the Chamber of Secrets for the Game Boy Color, which I've heard are very much like Final Fantasy, along with Harry Potter. As well as Lord of the Rings: The Third Age for Game Boy Advance, The Sims Bustin' Out for the Game Boy Advance, Iron Man, X of Manowar, and Heavy Metal for the Game Boy, and they co-developed WWF Raw on 32X. They made Shinobi for 3DS, as well as the DS version of Jeopardy, the remake of Warlords, the Atari game. It was the 2012 remake for PS3 and 360. And they made Where the Wild Things Are for the Wii. And they made this kart racing game for Digimon. Yeah, the Digital Monsters, they're the champions. That's mainly all I know about this franchise. So this is going to be an interesting case for me, because we're playing this kart racing game that's of a franchise I know very little about. I have seen a little bit of the TV series, or the anime I should say. From what I've understood, this comes from the first few seasons of the show as far as the characters who are in it. As far as story, I don't know if it really ties that too much, except for the characters who are in it. And we do have everybody available as far as I made sure to get that set for this one, which was designed and produced by Mark Coates. He worked at Lobotomy Software going back in the Sega Saturn days, particularly on Power Slave, which was also on the PlayStation and the PC. He was involved with the Sega Saturn port of Quake, which is quite a technical marvel if you've ever seen it. He also involved with design work on Destruction Derby 64 for Nintendo 64, Daredevil for Game Boy Advance was another Kryptonite joint. There was also Lego Star Wars for the Game Boy Advance, and he was part of the Xbox Live Arcade team for the Xbox 360 era, doing program management on a couple of the ports of that console for the downloadable side of things, specifically Res HD, Doom, Tetris Splash, and he was the lead producer on Castle Crashers, which we looked at back in our Delicious Showcase last year. He was very techno music, very Game Boy Advance-ified, from Ian Snacker, which is some pretty interesting stuff. As far as his credits includes Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for the Game Boy Color, Daredevil for Game Boy Advance, Lord of the Rings' Return of the King for Game Boy Advance, 007 Everything or Nothing, also on the Game Boy Advance. The Sims Bustin' Out for the Game Boy Advance and the N-Gage, the Nokia unit, as far as their portable phone thingy. As well as Shrek Super Slam for the DS, the Chronicles of Narnia The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I was gonna say the Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay, that would be hilarious, but no. They made the Chronicles of Narnia games for the DS and Game Boy Advance, as well as Sport Creatures for DS, Art Academy for DS, and Adventure Time, Explore the Dungeon, because I don't know, as is the case. So that's the idea. We are taking a look at this car racing game, which, as far as the way that we were scoping this, I did unlocks for everything off screen to get everything set, because there are 3 characters you can unlock by going through all the modes we have, which take a look at that. We have the cup race, the quick race, the time trial, and then you have the trophy room because you get trophies for completing each of the cups, quick races, and time trials. And you get medals on each of these or cups on each of these. And I don't remember if you have to have them as gold. Because I was doing the quick race. Some of these are really hard to get first place on. I got second on one of them, but gold on all the other ones. It did give me the character unlock, but I did get golds on all of these for it. But either way, you do unlock a new Digimon for the purpose of that. The only thing that's really not going to be in scope is the multiplayer, because I'm playing this on my own. We are running the Game Boy player for the purpose of this through the GameCube, which, as I mentioned, we looked at Pikmin earlier this year, which Gemini 96 showed, I should say. We're basically going to use the GameCube as our Game Boy Advance for the purpose of the show, as opposed to using it for the GameCube, with a couple exceptions here and there. But since I don't have another person with me or a Game Boy Advance connected to, or another cartridge, because I believe this is the case where you did need multiple cartridges of the game in order to play multiplayer, I can't show that. I also can show the wireless multiplayer because this game does use the wireless adapter that came with Pokemon Fire Red version and Leaf Green version for Game Boy Advance. This game actually does use it, but I do not have it, so it's going to be out of scope. We will look at the single player. We're going to go on our aspects of Digimon. Feel free to let all your memories on Digimon flow, because honestly, you're going to be helping me understand it, because I don't know Digimon that well. But that being said, I'm curious about this game. I was very curious when people mentioned it, saying like, oh, it seems like a joke. I said, you know, other people might not want to show this, but I said, maybe we should. Maybe we should take a look at it. Who knows? It could turn out good. It could turn out bad. Honestly, it's pretty interesting. I gotta be honest, this might be a semi-diamond in the rough on the Game Boy Advance. And it's a licensed game, I know that. So, especially on portable units, it can be a bit of a crapshoot. It can be a question of saying, hey, the idea that there is a really easy barrier to entry for the Game Boy Advance in particular. It was very easy to develop for. Most of the games in that console or on that portable were developed in the C programming language. So it meant that you get tons of games out, and a lot of companies saw that, especially Kryptonite Games, who's making a lot of things on this as well as later on the DS, and saying, well, that seems like that would be a way to turn around something quickly, get a game based on a license, and then kids will want to buy it, or the parents might want to buy it for them. And the question of, is that going to be a good case? But this is pretty interesting. I don't know if I can necessarily say this is the best usage of the license I could think of. And I don't know this franchise enough to actually say, but still a case that, for the kind of thing it is, especially on a console that has Mario Kart Super Circuit and Konami Crazy Racers and a lot of kart racing options, I was surprised that this kind of semi-holds its own. Is it so much so, I think maybe this isn't going to be a case of not bad games for us. Because sometimes that's a question on the April Fool's Day show. It's like, sometimes a question of, hey, is this a good game or not? Sometimes that's going to be the thing we'll answer. And if you don't agree that this is a good game, I think it's a pretty fun game, what I've been playing. But if not, feel free to go into it and we talk about it for sure. Area any memories on Digimon. But to start, I'm just going to go over a couple things. Stuff with the audio and the options as well. I have the music and sound effects at max. I did get the audio set for that. You have difficulties normal, easy, and hard. I'm running normal. That's what I did my unlocks on. I can put it on to other stuff later. HUD style, you have two. I think I'll split between these. New game gets rid of the save on the cartridge. I'm not going to do that. And then credits we can look at later. And then the language select will let you play in English, French, German, Italian, or Spanish. We're going to run English as far as the purpose of this. Or set all the options to default, but that's going to be the case. Alright, so we're going to take a look at single player. We're going to look at every single mode. We will cover every course. We will look at every cup as far as if I'm going to win them all. Even though I did it off screen, don't know if I'm going to be doing that tonight, but we'll show everything off as well as the quick race, which is all of the courses that you have, and then the time trial to show the idea of what it is. But I'll also show you how the trophy room is, just to give you a sense of what I did. Because you have, you have 9 cups, of which the Western Cup, the Eastern Cup, the Central Cup, Burning Cup, Frozen Cup, Aqua Cup, Urban Cup, and Perilous Cup, and Boss Cup. And if you get golds on each of those, or get medals on each of them, you get unlocks of characters. And then you also have the boss battles, because this has 3 boss battles against Omnimon, Deborahmon, and Malomyotismon. Yeah, this is going to be interesting as far as me trying to get a sense of who are these characters' names. I know in this franchise, if you put Mon at the end of them, those are the creatures as far as the digital monsters as far as this, which I guess very similar to Pokemon in some way, but I know their differences. And what I do know the differences are, this is kind of more, from what I've understood, a bit more of a tech side of things, as far as where the creatures come from and how they upgrade, particularly by digivolving, which is a factor of this game, and it's kind of interesting the way they do it. And then you have the quick race medals, which go to all 12 of the tracks that are in this game, and then the time trial medals as well. And for going through that, you get Wheelmon, Vmon, and Agunamon as unlockables. I do have them all set, so we'll have them going for the purpose of the show tonight. Okay, so for the purposes, we're going to start with the cup case and also go over our cast of characters. Alright, they also show the idea of each of their forms. Yeah, because each of them have 3 forms as far as how they go. They start in their base form as far as how it is, but based on the fractal bar, they might be in training mode where you're Coromon, or your rookie mode, which is your default, or champion where you're Greymon. That's the evolutionary line as far as Agumon, and the gameplay is going to go into that. We also have Gabumon. Actually, I guess since they do go through those animations, when I was doing my test, I thought that just going that way, may as well show all of their elements are as far as each of the forms of them, as far as where their trainee, rookie, and champion forms are. It is training, right? As far as the first one? Well, it'll show, because it scrolls through. Yeah, in training, rookie, and champion. Okay, next is Palmon, and also it's worth pointing out, one thing is that, as you're hearing here, this game has voice acting. And it is a lot of the voice performances that were from the Digimon series. So, in that case, we will be going into all of them as we go. But I will not go into all of them now, or those will be here for like an hour of playing the game. We also have Patamon, as well as his other forms. Tokomon is his training form, and then his champion is Angemon, or Angemon? As I said, any fans of Digimon in the audience, feel free to correct me as far as what that's going to be like, because I'm going to openly say I am not an expert on this franchise. But that being said, it is something where I don't think you necessarily have to be in order to have a good time with this game. And that was kind of a surprise to me, because sometimes, well, actually, we have talked this as far as licensed games on the Game Boy Advance. I know Nikki went into this, saying that she had games based on The Secret Life of Zack and Cody from Disney. I know my cousin, who got married a couple years ago, I remember, I mentioned at one point I purchased Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon for DS. It was in the bargain bin at my local Walmart for $10. Also in the bargain bin was the game based on the Jonas Brothers, Jonas, which is on DS. She picked that up. And just, those kind of strange notes as far as the case, like, what's Fire Emblem? Ooh, let me tell you. Like, who are the Jonas Brothers? Ooh, let me tell you, as far as her telling me that way. So sometimes it's a question, like, what are the licensed games going on like? And sometimes a question of, maybe not that great, including, I guess I may as well go into some seeing Biomon's forms. The case that there was that game based on Cory in the House on DS that for some reason, over the past few months, became insanely rare. I don't know how it happened, why it happened, but I don't know if it's actually still going on. But for some reason, it became a joke, and they said, hey, it drove the price of the game up. This game, it didn't, because this game did not cost too much to pick up. It was like $15, $20. As far as how much that is in comparison to Mario Kart Super Circuit, I think it's pretty comparable. Super Circuit might be a little more. I know Konami Crazy Races is a little more. I have that. I downloaded that on the Wii U Virtual Console before they shut it down because I wanted to make sure that I had it because it was like $50 at the time. I don't know if it's still that much, but it's interesting to think that, and also to think that, yeah, this game is maybe not a bad alternative to those two. As we have Biomon as well as Solomon with So Solomon. I do like the designs, and they are reflected really well for the Game Boy Advance, and also the other thing that I think is interesting is that they're 3D models. So, technologically speaking, there's some interesting things that Kryptonite Games is doing out of this console. But definitely you're going to see some limitations as well, as we see Gomamon. Well, see, here's the thing, I can announce who they are, but then again, the game is also kind of doing my job for me as far as that, and going back through as far as seeing all their forms. I mean, we'll show them all. I mean, whether we see all their forms or not, I don't know, because depending on how you drive, we might not see the in-training form of Digimon or Guilmon, and then eventually Growlmon. We'll see the Digivolve champion forms, I guarantee that. And it's worth pointing out, Guilmon is one of the Hudden characters, as is Vmon here. And you're also seeing their stats, because they do have different stats, and you do get a sense of that as you go with speed, handling, and acceleration, and also their power. In fact, I will go down the list again after this, as we have Agunamon, who's the last character you unlock, the last one I unlocked. Because they have their different attributes, and you can also change their car color, but they also have a specific power. Because you're going to see when we play, you have a fractal bar. Basically, you drive in an area that's not dissimilar to like the energy areas in the F-Zero games, and that lets you digivolve. When you get it up to the top, you get powers for yourself. You get accessibility to your Digimon power exclusive to that character. In the case of Agumon, he has the Nova Blast. Gabumon has the Howling Blaster. Palmon has the Needle Spray. Patamon has the Hand of Fate. Tentamon has the Electric Shocker. Biyamon has the Fire Burst. Salmon has the Cat's Eye Hypno. Gomamon has the Harpoon Torpedo. Power Blaster's Guilmon's Power. Flame Shield for Vmon. And then Corona Blaster for Agunamon. So it is interesting to kind of give that sense. As far as balance of this game, well, I don't know how to say as far as multiplayer for this, or what that necessarily looks like, but for the purpose of single player, I'll say this. I do get the sense that you can win with really anybody, and also as far as their powers, they're not necessarily dissimilar to some of the weapons you can pick up on the course, because it is like Mario Kart or Konami Crazy Racers or any car racing game, where you pick up items on the course and use them that way, which is separate from your Digimon, or your Fractal powers, they call it. So, and you can also hold them at both at the same time, if you so desire. But it does, some of them are pretty similar to some of those pickups you get, but it also is maybe a little more powerful form. And as you saw with some of the characters in particular, I know we had that with Vmon. Vmon has Flame Shield, so they have some that work offensively and defensively. So it's pretty interesting that way, and it seems like balanced pretty well. But anyway, let's get going. And you also have your option of card color. I believe as you unlock the, or get the gold medals on everything, I think you do unlock these colors. I think I'm gonna go with this one because it's the nice fire on that. We'll show off every character, and when I do show off each character for the first time, I will talk about their voice performances. I just have to see where they are because here are their voice performers from the TV show. It's worth pointing out some of them are unfortunately no longer with us. We'll celebrate them or their case, of course, as we always do. So you think, well, how big a case of voice acting notes we need in this game? Surprisingly a lot, but then again, that's also the thing about the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance was something where you saw more voice acting going on for the purpose of it. So we'll give that aspect. As far as Agumon here, I'll have him speak just for the purpose of that. Yeah, that is Tom Thon, who voiced him on the TV show, but he also was the voice of Stu in Ice Age 2: The Meltdown, the movie. He's also the voice of Lapwick in Brave Fencer Musashi for the PlayStation. We're also going to run a little bit of a theme here. A lot of people in this voice cast were in that game. It's kind of like when we played Shadow the Hedgehog, and a lot of that voice cast was in the 4Kids dub of One Piece. But he also had a bit part as an MTA worker in the 1999 film Stigmata, which I guess fitting for the purpose of this Easter weekend was about demons coming back and aspects of the Catholic Church having to stop him. He also played Dirk Vagrin in EverQuest 2. He was a brigade boss in Fire Emblem Heroes, and he's Piotr on Force of Piano? I think it's an anime. It looked kind of interesting from what I saw. And as I mentioned, he was Agumon on the TV show, and also, I believe also in Digimon the movie. We'll have an aspect going to that as we go. Alright, let's take Agumon out. Oh, wait, no, I don't want to have just the yellow one, but that's fine. I can go back. And we'll take a look as far as the map, because we're going to show off all the cups, but we'll start with the first one. But I do want to have... Okay, now it held that. Okay, that's weird. Alright, there we go. Because that's the one I want to have. But it's just cosmetic as far as the color. As far as his stats, they're basically average across the board, so he's a good one to start off with. And I have everything set. We'll also show off the bosses as you go. There is Boss Cup at the end, which takes all three of the bosses into one run. But as you go through cups, at the end of set of the cups, you will get boss fight, and we'll see those going on. First off, we'll start with Western Cup. And to give you the idea of where you're going to go, you have Desert Oasis, Toy Town, Desert Cliffs, and Swamp Bog. And it's interesting seeing those pictures as far as what they are. As far as who these other creatures are, unfortunately I don't know, as I said, because I don't have as much of a background of this franchise as maybe other people do. But I'll be learning. It'll be like when we looked at Bakugan Defenders of the Core last year, where that was the case where actually that kind of got me into it. And in that case, we will come back with Bakugan eventually with Bakugan Battle Brawlers, which I have the Wii version of. And also for Digimon here as well after tonight's show, because at some point, when I figure the scope on this one, I know I promised Reese the Worthing Doge Digimon All-Star Rumble for the PlayStation 3. I do have it. I do want to get a sense of when I'm going to be able to do that. I just want to scope it to make sure everything is set, and that was also what I wanted to figure for the purpose of Digimon Racing here, because people said, yeah, Digimon Racing, you want to laugh at this thing. But I said, all right, I took that as a challenge. Maybe it's a case we're saying either don't say to me, well, you should play this game or not, or mention it, because then I was like, oh no, we should play it. But I said, let's take a look, because I don't know. In some cases, that's the thing I love about doing the show. I sometimes just like coming in here and saying, I've never heard a game before. Like everybody, you're gonna have a different story as far as gaming, what games I came from, or came to, what I played on. I mean, I had Game Boy Advance as far as during its life. I did get it at launch. But as far as what I was playing at the time, I was playing a lot of the Nintendo stuff, and I guess I was playing other things of third party, particularly a lot of the Sega stuff for certain things. But as far as that, so it's interesting to think that, saying other people, I'm gonna assume, have probably come to this game and said, oh my god, this is the game I grew up with, really, maybe you're really liking, maybe not really liking, depends what it is, but also the sense of seeing all these interesting stories and definitely some interesting things you can find looking through the Game Boy Advance or really any console's library. Okay, so let's start with Western Con. Okay, so we have the element going on here. When you have the countdown going, hit A button as far as at the last light and you shoot forward. As far as controls this game, you're moving left and right and steering with D-pad. R is your jump. As far as that is, you jump way higher than in Mario Kart. You also get the item over there, but as I go through that black goop, whatever that is, you get the Digivolve, and it puts me into my champion. You see that fractal bar going. When you get up high, you get my power. In this case, it's Nova Blast. But as far as the items, you do pick them up. As soon as you pick another one up, you will swap it out. But if you have your fractal power and your weapon, you hit the select button to switch between them. In this case, hit L to shoot off. Sorry, the Nova Blast is going to hit him, but you're also seeing, yeah, this game does have a lot of slowdown. And also, as you use your powers and also you get hit by things, you come out of your champion form. You go back to your rookie form. And it's worth pointing out, when you're in your rookie form, as I get the lightning bolt, it's like the one in Mario Kart, just stop everybody. You do have a faster speed if you're in your champion form. If you're in your pre-evolved form, the one with the at the bottom, I should say, you are going to be in trouble. Also, that's shield. I do want to have that up. Just protect you from getting hit. And you can also hold on to your Nova Blast as far as how that is. And I do like the ability you can swap between the Nova Blast or whatever your power is, depending on who you're playing as, and then a normal item. In that case, yeah, get rid of him. And also the hopping, which can be pretty useful, because in some ways the steering can be a bit squirrely, but it also does depend on the character you're playing as. Once you get that set, you're ready to go, and I can shoot that off. Also, as we're pointing out, when you are in the fractal zone, and I got bubbled. Uh-oh. That's not good. When you are in the fractal zone, shit. I'm gonna totally lose this. I don't know. Alright, I didn't get last. I get 5th place, and now the raindrops keep falling on my head as far as that. But when you're in that zone, it's not like F-Zero where you have to drive through it as far as it to boost your power. At least, I think F-Zero you had to do that. We played F-Zero X on the show. I don't remember that being the case, but if you just stay there, it'll fill up all the way. Although during a race, you don't want to do that. But in this case, I got 5th place. You do get points for the purpose of that. You get 27 points for 1st place, 18 for 2nd, 9 for 3rd, 3 for 4th, a measly 1 for 5th like I got, and Gabumon got nothing for getting last. But it is 4 races, so we do have a shot potentially to come back. Next, we're going to Toy Town. Evade Numemon. Okay, so that's what those things are. I wasn't sure completely, but that's the setting. Alright, so let's go. Yeah, definitely going Mario Kart for sure. Super Mario Kart, with the fact that it is a flat track, which a lot of these games on Game Boy Advance did have, as far as how that is. And also the nice rainbow colors as far as the purpose of the walls over there. And the music is very chill. I do like it. And also, if you do hit those Numemons, they will splatter on the front of your screen. They'll live, but it's a case where they do slow you down, so you gotta be careful about that. In that case, basically, pretty much find the fractal zones on a level as soon as you can. Sometimes they're gonna be out of the way, depending on what it is. Right, he's in trouble, or he's gonna give me trouble. And that's the blast there. I do want to shoot that off. Whoa. Also, yeah, the jump is very high. I do like that, as far as... And go over the boosts. In each lap, or each race is 3 laps. Just go with that. Yeah, pretty much it's DEFCON 1, get yourself to Digivolve as soon as you can for the purpose of winning. It's weird. So far, I feel like I'm doing worse on this than when I was doing the practice. Even though I did go through and get gold and everything. And it was unnormal that I did it. But I guess as far as the last race, it was basically, I guess, being unlucky, or, well, in that case, being lucky, or being lucky as far as what happens near the end of the race. Ouch. Also, just like Mario Kart or other things like that, where if you hit into the wall, even if you do the jump over, you're not going to jump over. In that case, I do like that effect. They kind of splatter on your windshield, but not a case where they're going to die. Alright, boom. Alright, I do have the shield. I do want to use that. There's another shield. That can help as far as it, especially if I get hit by something. I do have to get moving. There you go. Now that I'm making my way through, I do want to make sure I'm set there. Oh, crap. I missed it. But I do still have a chance. Alright, here's a shield, so I'm not gonna hit him yet. So wait till that stops. Or knock him out of the way, that'll work. Whoop. Okay, that was better. Alright, so we're moving up, not bad. You're getting this kind of 3D fireworks going on. So, yeah, there's some interesting tech going on for this, I'll say that. Maybe not some of the most, I guess, boundary-pushing stuff on this console. Usually I would think of stuff like Toros Games, I mentioned them before, and all Vicarious Vision's another company that did a lot of stuff on Game Boy Advance. They really pushed the tech of the console, but definitely a couple things here, like, yeah, it's pretty neat as far as what they're doing. Which shows a level of effort that maybe you would think this game doesn't have, but it kind of does. You're going to the Desert Cliffs. We have Panchamon. Those are the, I guess the cacti dudes, as far as they are. Yeah, they roll boulders around. You do have to be careful. Also, you can fall off the course, so be careful on that one, too. And, alright, out of the way. I do kind of like the way you're just blasting right through. Basically, you pretty much just kind of go right through. And that gets dropped the bomb. And even with the stuff with frame rate here and there, it is, generally speaking, pretty smooth for the thing it is. And I have a speed boost, so I do want to be careful about where I use that. But I definitely can make use of it. Or I can hold it and use it later, like with, say, Mario Kart, or really any car racing game you name. So the idea is that you do have strategy to be able to play the game that way. In that case, yeah, just use it to shoot across, but ooh, I fell. And you do lose some fractal energy and you get dropped off. I guess, yeah, I'll put him in the bubble, there you go. There are also blue versions of the bubble. But I think in some ways it's random what you get, but as far as I can tell, I don't think they necessarily function different. Oh, that was close not getting hit by that boulder. But even that looks pretty impressive, because I could understand on this console saying, hey, you know, maybe make things into a sprite, but as far as this, they said, well, okay, I think they're sort of sprites. It seems like it's a mix of the two. Kind of the same way that I think Mario Kart Super Circuit went that way. Although, admittedly, this came after Mario Kart Super Circuit by quite a ways, by 3 years, whereas Mario Kart Super Circuit was pretty early into the Game Boy Advance's life. I do like the bass in this track. Actually, a lot of the tracks. It almost has like a Sega Genesis sound. Ah, no! Let me out, please. Okay, I hit somebody, and I did Digivolve, so that's good, but I need shield. That can help. Alright, out of my way. I want to win. And I did. Fantastic. There we go. So yeah, I just had to get back in the rhythm. That's the idea. Okay. I don't know if I can get to first place overall. I mean, I might. We'll see. This is gonna be close. I'm basically gonna have to win this race as far as going to the Swamp Bog. We have Pixamons around, and you have to be careful of those as well as the pools, but also, as you're gonna see on this course, they do incentivize using the jump for the purpose of taking shortcuts, which I do like them. And nothing else it does fulfill sort of a bit of a, I guess, wish fulfillment of my own when I played Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. And that is, in the Grand Prix race in that game, you had a case where the enemies would just jump over things like way higher than you could, unless you get the feather, which also, the way the feather worked in that game, I think there's some courses where, by its very nature, it just didn't appear. I think. But I was thinking, outside of that, they were able to jump over the case like I put a nice Koopa shell or a banana peel somewhere, that they could just jump right over it. So in that case, it was always sometimes of an annoyance thing that I wish I could do that. But now in this game, you can. Whoa, but sometimes when you get hit by something, you do get turned around, which can be a little annoying. But this isn't a bit of a long course, and this is where you take the shortcut. Jump, jump, jump. As we're pointing out, if you touch the water, you will go and sink, but you also do have a little bit of a window if you're just right on the edge, where it will count as you being able to make the jump. Well, let me out. Oh no! But in this case, yeah, I splashed in. Yeah, I'm playing dirty, but then again, that's a car racing game for you. Yeah, they play dirty, so then you say, like, okay, I'm gonna get you guys. And gals and creatures. Yeah, and if you get the Pixamons, they will stab at you and slow you down. There's bombs on the course, but I want to get sense. Also, you're seeing another thing, which is, oh, whoa! I'm gonna look on the footage to see what happened. It looked like I just got launched off screen, or when I was trying to jump, basically when he crashed into me. That's interesting. That'd be something interesting, maybe for the glitch compilation we'll do at the end of the year. But in that case, yeah, just take that. Whoa. But also the AI is pretty good in this game, but also they're not a case where they won't make mistakes. You saw they're trying to make the jump over there, but sometimes they won't make the jump right. And yeah, I got knocked in. Send that off. Ah, crap. Yeah, because the box will flash if somebody's gotten it, but that did hit him. So, you do have to be careful. Yeah, I gotta win this, though, because otherwise we're not getting the gold case. But if I don't get the gold case, it's really no sweat. As I mentioned, because I already got everything off screen, just for the purpose of doing unlocks. Because I wanted to do that. I said, if we're gonna play this thing, I want to make sure that we can get every character and show them off. And we definitely will. And I'll change characters as we go across for each. Okay, no, I see the difference then with the blue one and the red one. It's actually not similar to Mario Kart in the sense where the green Koopa shell shoots forward, the blue one of these shoots forward as well, and the red one seeks in. And that definitely seeks in. In that case, yeah, as far as the Nova Blast, to send him packing. Alright. It's pretty thrilling, but also the thing is that as far as how turning is concerned, if it's a case where you don't think you're going to be able to make a turn, hopping can help you out. But yeah, in that case, I did make a comeback. Whether that's good enough to get gold, don't know. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, but it's definitely a thrill when you get to the end, as far as how it is. Especially in that case where I was in 6th, and I was like, yeah, can I get back to win? And the answer is, yeah, I can. Alright, I just won by 1 point. Perfect. Fantastic. Okay, there we go. So, Gunamon, we beat you by 1 point. And I like this. It looks great as far as when they do, like, the 3D model coming across. There you go. So, we did get the gold cup. Alright, so you finished first, and every time you get a cup, you do get a save going on to your cartridge. But for this, we're also going to change character as we go along. Alright, so good job, Agumon. Alright, next up is Gabumon. Let's see as far as your voice performer. Gabumon, let's see. I did take everybody down, so we're not going to skip one. And some characters are the same as far as other characters, as far as who they voice. Gabumon. Okay, he's further down the list. Actually, I want to listen to him again now, knowing who he is. Yeah, okay, I guess it is. Yeah, Gabumon, as well as, Sumamon and, Garurumon, I should say. He is voiced by someone we have heard on the show before. We're also seeing here. His speed is amazing, but his handling and acceleration are not that great. And his power-up is the Howling Blaster, which I'll show off. Yeah, Gabumon here is voiced by Kirk Thornton. We've heard him when we played Shadow Hearts Covenant because he was the voice of Ben Hyuga in that game. He's also the voice of Shadow the Hedgehog in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise and has been since Sonic Free Riders for Xbox 360. He is the voice of Harry Mason in Silent Hill Shattered Memories for the Wii, PSP, and PS2. the first remake of Silent Hill 1. And the next one's coming out, don't know when. We'll probably hear something at Summer Games Fest when it's coming out from Blooper Team. He's also the voice of Commander in the Bouncer for the PlayStation 2, as well as Slazer in the Grainstream Saga for PlayStation 1. He was Captain Matthews in the Xenosaga games, going back as far as that, because you mentioned that. He's also the voice of Orca in the Dot Hack games, particularly the 4 on the PlayStation 2, as far as the first 4. He also was Simon Algo and George Splevin in Mission Impossible Operation Surma for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, which is a game based on the old TV series and the semi-movie franchise, which was published by Atari and developed by Paradigm Studios. The people made Pilot Wing 64, so that means I want to play it. I'm surprised I still have it over the years. It's very much like Splinter Cell. And he also the voice of Kevin Ryman in Resident Evil Outbreak for the PlayStation 2, that being the online Resident Evil, which I'm surprised they never really tried to replicate that modern. But yeah, that's the case. Kirk Thornton as Goblinmon. Let's see what he's got, and we'll pick a different skin for him. Let's go with, yeah, nice purple. And he's fast, but yeah, that handling acceleration is going to be perhaps the death of me, but we'll see how it goes. Okay. So next on the cup line, we have, let's see. Well, actually, wait a sec. Actually, you know what? We have, okay, we have, is the boss next? Right, because we're going between Western Cup. Okay, so I guess we'll go in the order of that. So, since we did do the Western Cup, just to show that, I guess we'll fight the boss, but I will also use, Gabumon here for racing. Okay, here's the deal. We're fighting Omnimon. The way the bosses in this work, it's not like Diddy Kong Racing where you're doing a race against them. Or, no, yeah, they're all race in that game. But in this case, you're basically in an arena and you have to beat them. And the way it works is you have to go around, pick up items, and you have to hit them before the time runs out, and then it'll unlock the next cup when you're going. As far as Omnimon's voice actor, since we are going to hear him, let me see where his voice case is. The way I did this, I did take down all the voice actor cases, but I also did them in order as far as how they were on IMDb, so it's a case where it's like, wait, I might have to go around and say, wait, where are they? But they're all here, and we will give their due as far as how they is. It is, Omnimon. I'm thinking Omni-Man from, God, isn't that, what series is that? Isn't that, Peacemaker, I think? Feel free to correct me, Chad, if that's not right, I'll correct myself in a couple of days. Where the hell is it? Unless this is the Shadow Hearts Covenant thing in another way, and that they didn't credit them, but took everybody down as far as who they were. I guess I might have to wait on that. Alright, let's go fight Omnimon. Okay, one thing worth pointing out on the bosses, they do have fractal zones, but there is a little bit of a trick here. You gotta pick up the items, because you go into this zone, you do Digivolve, when you get to your max, it turns off your fractal powers. What you gotta do is you have to use the weapons. And when he does a crouch like that, get in front of him and hit him. Hit him 3 times, you win, you have to do it within the time limit. Alright, I do need to get that set there. Yeah, he hits you with the Supreme Cannon that puts you in the bubble, and you gotta be careful on that, but I also need to... The good news is you can listen to the voice and then also gauge when you can hit him. And also see his animation. Basically, you want to wait until he takes the knee, and then you want to hit him. And this is going to get close. There's going to be sort of flashlight warning in the next second or so, because, yeah, it'll do this when you have a case of time going down. Also, you can go behind the walls and he won't hit you. Got him. Yeah, not too hard, but it is something you do have to kind of sit around and think about it. As far as what do you do to take him down. Also, I'd like to find who voiced him. Yeah, but it will do the save as far as that. Unfortunately, they are not playable, as far as I could tell. So, in that case, there's not going to be much of a case going on. Yeah, I'll have to look later. I guess I'll look later as far as who voices him. Or I might do it now. Omnimon. You know what? I'm going to do that now. In fact, there might be a case where since a lot of the voices are from the TV show, that might be all I need to know. Oh, okay, it's Kirk Thornton as well. I thought I took his case down. And Lex Lang later, but actually I don't think Lex Lang is in this game, as far as I can tell. Yeah, I don't remember taking his name down on the notes, so I guess he's not. So, yeah, let me look at them on my Kirk Thornton notes, so I guess it is him. Let's see. Maybe I missed that, or maybe IMDb missed it. Either way, there you go. So, alright, when you beat him, you do unlock the Eastern Cup. So in that case, we're going to take a run through there, which we have the Jungle Ruins, the Coastline, Underwater, and Polar Iceland. So we're pointing out when you go through the cups, some of the courses are going to repeat. But that being said, we'll definitely show off all the characters we go through. Okay. We'll see how good is his speed, but also his acceleration is slow. Also, for this course, you do have areas you go through water, so it's not dissimilar to Koopa Beach from Super Mario Kart. Again, it's going to come up anytime, really. For, I guess, any kart racing game, because, I mean, with one exception I can think of... Oh, shit. I fell in the water. Super Mario Kart did kind of spearhead the kart racing genre, although, well, yes and no. I mean, it did, but then again, we also had RC Pro-Am from Rare, which also was kind of something like that. A little bit. That did come out before, and I believe so did the sequel, RC Pro-Am 2. Okay, so yeah, he handles really bad. So in that case, you might also want to use the brake, which is on the B button, by the way. A button is accelerating if I... Yeah, I don't think I mentioned that. And everything else I mentioned as far as stuff, I do want to get his fractal power. Okay. You get some nice tribal beats going on here. Whoa. Okay, so I guess then that's something I guess is sort of unique, which is the idea that it's a kart racing game where using the brake is semi-encouraged. Okay, so we couldn't show this in the boss, we can show it now. Okay, I did hit him with it, but then I'm getting myself hit too. Okay, I'm really fast, but as I said, with the way the handling works, and also since that is a wall, this might be a problem. And it's worth pointing out when I did do the practice, I didn't use every single character, but I will show off every character. It might be one of those cases of thinking that, man, maybe it would have been easier or harder, depending on who I pick. But if you know what you're doing, you can definitely get stuff going on pretty decently anyway. And since we are playing this on the Game Boy Player, by the way, it does mean that I'm using the GameCube controller, which I normally am not a fan of using for games like this because of how tiny the D-pad is, but I do like the idea of pushing those big L and R buttons in as far as using those for this. Although, actually, one thing I don't think we've ever mentioned done Game Boy Player games or Game Boy Advance games, because outside of collections they have Game Boy Advance games, this is how we're going to use it for really anything for it. Which I know we've done before, but not a whole lot. But one thing on the Game Boy Advance or the Game Boy Player that is interesting is that you can actually use a Game Boy Advance as your controller. But you do need to have the Game Boy Advance to GameCube link cable, or the Game Boy to Game Boy Advance link cable, which I do have, and then you connect your Game Boy Advance to that. I got third place, so better than I expected. But it is worth pointing out you do have to, I guess, have the Game Boy Advance plugged in if you're going to be running off of like an AC thing, or batteries in it if you're running one of the earlier models. So, in that case, it might not be particularly practical. And in my case, I actually can't use my Game Boy Advance because mine does not work anymore. So in this case, the GameCube method is the way to go for this. Alright, there's 9 points, so we are in the middle of the pack, so maybe we can get stuff going as we're going to go to the coastline. Also, as far as the music, just to go into this, I don't... Okay, I'm in my mini form, so I gotta be careful. Oh no. But it's worth pointing out, it's not dissimilar to something like Beautiful Joe in the sense where when you're in your mini form, you will have your fractal bar go up a little bit just for the purpose of that as you go, so you go back to your rookie form. But yeah, being in your little baby form is the worst thing you can do. So try and avoid it. Sometimes you can't because sometimes enemies will pelt you and stuff. But in that case, then you can say, yeah, I'll get revenge that way. Whoa, crap. Also, that is the shortcut you want to take. Except, unfortunately, I'm not going fast enough, so I might not be able to. So actually, this is going to be really, really bad. Why does this remind me of Mario Kart? So this is Dolly Finn. Hello, Dolly Finn. So good to see you tonight. There's a reason for that. I'm playing Digimon Racing for Game Boy Advance. It is a car racing game, very much like Mario Kart. So good to see you tonight. I don't know what your experience on Digimon is. Mine is not much. But when chat mentioned this game, we played Twisted Metal and said, they're laughing, saying that, is this a joke? And for our April Fool's Day game, I said, yeah, let's take a look. Is it? And the answer is, I don't know, actually. It's got some interesting stuff. That's probably the reason why. Yeah, hello all of you. So good to see you tonight, Dolly Finn. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good weekend so far. As far as it, yeah. And get ready for our first of 2 April Fool's Day games. Because honestly, I think this game is pretty interesting and pretty decent. Although I think maybe a bit better than decent. But I'm not doing a good job of showing, as it does look like Koopa Beach from Super Mario Kart. So you're not wrong on that either. I have no experience at all on this one either, and it does look like fun. It is surprisingly better than I would have thought, because I was not sure. Alright, I got my my Roaring Blast thing. Yeah, because when you have your build-up, it's kind of like F-Zero in the sense that you go over, like, the goop zone, or, like, the energy zone, I should say. That's probably not the right way to say it. You do build that bar up on the left, and when you build it up, you get a special power, but you also have items you pick up. Yeah, I think I end up in the drink all the time as far as this. Yeah, one thing I will say is that the controls can be a bit squirrely on this, and actually I'm playing as a character who does not have good handling. He's a case where he's more about speed. So in that case, I'm not doing a great job. So I probably will end up in the water. Yeah, and when you do lose, the game will remind you because you have like the rain cloud over your head as far as how it is. Yeah, it is. I'll tell you this. It's not a case where I just say this necessarily replaces Mario Kart, but we sometimes talk about this when it comes to licensed games. You mentioned this when we did Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights, which is really good insight, which is saying, how does a game really capture its enterprise when they make a game based on it? And where's a case where it really feels like it fits in with it, and they really went the extra mile? As far as this game, as we're going into the water, and we have Dolphmon as far as the creatures here. I don't know if I'd say this is a good or bad use of the license, because I don't know it that well, although one thing I do think it does that is a good reflection is the idea of the Digivolving, which is the idea that it's not dissimilar to Pokemon, or it's not dissimilar to Pokemon as far as the case that you have these creatures kind of come from, like, the internet is the idea from what I understand of Digimon. I know I'm simplifying that a lot, but that being said, the concept that they grow as they go along for Digivolving, and they make that a gameplay mechanic for the purpose of doing the races. So, I'm in my normal rookie form, but as you go over the energy field here, I Digivolve, as they say, so then you get faster speed. And also, when you get that bar filled over there, you get abilities that are unique to your character. So in that way, I think it is a smart usage of the license. And on the Game Boy Advance, there were a lot of games like this, not just Mario Kart Super Circuit, which was the Game Boy Advance edition of that, which is, I think, underrated. You think a Mario Kart game that's underrated? I get the sense people don't know that one, which is strange because it did sell pretty well. But then a lot of other games that were kind of going after them, saying, hey, you know, if we put famous characters in it, we can have that going. Because also, it means that if nothing else, you don't have to maybe explain the game to a certain extent, as far as saying, oh, it's like Mario Kart, so play it like that. But then later on, then you can peel back the layers and realize, okay, there's some unique stuff it's doing that goes to its license. And I think in that way, this game does a good job of itself. And especially for the Game Boy Advance, it does show off some nice tech. So in that case, it is pretty interesting. And it was something where I guess then, when chat mentioned it to me a couple years ago, it was something I kind of took as a challenge, but I also said, you know what, is this a bad game or not? I said, you know what, I don't know. And what I'm looking at, I don't think so. I mean, it's maybe an acquired taste, perhaps, for certain cases. I don't know if people would pick to play this over Mario Kart necessarily, but if you like Digimon, I think you play Mario Kart Super Circuit to death, I think you could have a pretty decent choice here. Well, there you go. And that jump button does make things interesting, because as opposed to Mario Kart, where it's a little bit of a hop, and you use that basically to start power sliding, this one is basically being able to hop over holes in the course. So it does have some interesting things, and I got second place as far as that, being able to do that. So as I said, it does have kind of the skeleton of something like Mario Kart, but it also has its own elements that, in that way, I think do kind of go with this license well of what little I know, as we're going to Polar Iceland. I don't think I'm going to be doing well on this because it is an icy area. And I have a character who's not good at handling. But having said that, there are some interesting things going on, including the fact that over the ice, you're seeing this, you get the reflection of your cart over it, and it's actually lighter with the ice here, as far as near the snow, but then when you get to the deeper blue, you can see more. And that's the interesting thing about the people who made this, because it's Kryptonite Games who made this. They're an offshoot of Real-Time Associates. They were the Seattle branch, as was. And there's a game of theirs I played that I really didn't like growing up. That was Rugrats Scavenger Hunt, which was on Nintendo 64. This is a way better game than that. But also, you do have some powers that also reverse your controls. Sometimes you have to take some of those into account. But especially compared to something like that, where that didn't have a whole lot of meat on the bones as far as how the game played, this one kind of does, and even with some weird stuff, like you're seeing frame rates a little slow. I mean, it is pushing a 3D engine as far as this. It does have some interesting tech. It is taking that Digivolve concept, which actually I think that's really interesting. And it's got some really interesting music on top of it. And it plays pretty well, even in this case where I'm not making it look like I'm playing really well with our character here. Yeah, I think it might be a decent one, honestly. And sometimes that's where it goes with the April Fool's Day games. I realized last year after we did Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, I said, where do we go from here? We can't just go to where do we go next? Like, Crusader 64 was saying to me yesterday, he said, I think you have to do Crazy Bus next if you're going to be going to something to that degree. But I said, alright, let's do this one, because chat was saying, it's like, yeah, how good a game could this possibly be? It sounds like a joke. But I said, and it's only on Game Boy Advance. It's not like this was on the consoles when they said, oh, let's put it to the Game Boy Advance then. This is something original for this system. So, in that case, I took that as a challenge. I said, let's take a look at it. Maybe it's pretty decent. I think it's maybe a little better than decent. I mean, I guess it's also fitting because we did look at a Pokemon game on this annual show as far as how it is. We looked at Pokemon Violet version at 1.0, given how broken it was. And in that case, yeah, that was the right way to handle that one. But but if you take away the fact that the game didn't work, which was a big problem. But that being said, as it went along, and as I eventually said, hey, I gotta do this as a full show as we went, it is a case where there's some interesting things about it. I mean, this one does work better, but I'm getting dead last, unfortunately. Yeah, now look how sad we are for the purpose of losing. But that being said, this is an interesting one still, and a case where sometimes, I know we've talked this when it's come to games that are seen as bad. Actually, with this game, as far as its reputation, I don't know if it's seen as something really bad. Maybe just a case of thinking, oh, it's like Mario Kart with Digimon, and I think, well, why not just play Mario Kart? Maybe, but then again, maybe you played Mario Kart Super Circuit to death on this console. You want something different, but I finished fourth, so yeah, better luck next time. It doesn't completely rub it in the way that Mario Kart sometimes can. I mean, I remembered when I showed, I'll go pick another character. I remember when I showed Crusader 64 Mario Kart 64, and you get fourth place as far as the cup. You basically drive off as everybody's having the fun celebration, and the music goes into a minor key, and then the bomb cart comes and follows you and blows you up. He says, like, what? Because he'd never played this game before until I showed him, and he said, you know what, I think with this game, decisions were made. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But this one, I guess, is maybe not gonna, I guess, punish children that much. We have Palmon next. As far as who he is, let me get voice acting notes. Find out where he is. Oh, here we go. Palmon. Okay, let's have Palmon speak once more. Yeah, Palmon. Okay, this is someone we heard a couple months ago. It's unfortunately someone who is no longer with us. That is the late Deborah Felice Sampler. We played BlazBlue Calamity Trigger a couple months ago. She was the voice of Taukaka and Totokaka in that game. And she's also voices them in BlazBlue Continuum Shift. She was the voice of Maria Renard in Castlevania Judgment for the Wii and Castlevania Harmony of Despair for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. She was the voice of Sylvia in the anime based on Beautiful Joe. She was, okay, let's see if I have this. Alright, she was on Days of Our Lives as Renee Dumont, as it is. She was also Saki in an adult anime called Moonlight Lady. She was, Flau in Radiata Stories, which was on the 3DS, and she was the voice of Goten on Dragon Ball Z. Unfortunately, she died in 2021 of a heart attack. She was, I think, in her 60s, if I remember correctly. I did mention that we played BlazBlue Calamity Trigger, but she did have some great voice credits she did, and I'm gonna love when we get to Castlevania Judgment. even though I have some questions on how that game goes, it's also something I haven't played in years, so I do kind of want to give it another shot. And she is great as Maria in that game, no question. And she's here as Palmon, but also as Koromon, Yokomon, and Biyomon. And we're gonna take her out. We're gonna take her character out for spin. So Palmon, as you're seeing here, you have their training form, their rookie form, and then their champion form. The champion form is where you want to go. Almost looks like the Cactar from Final Fantasy, as far as the final champion form. As far as Palmon's concerned, high speed, better handling than how Gabumon was, and acceleration is about average. As far as the power, you got Needle Spray, so we'll have that going. Not that we're going to show it in the boss that they're going to give us, but we will show that in races. Yeah, because you do have boss fights going on every cup or so. So for that, what I want to do is... Right, because that's the Western Cup, Eastern Cup, and then here's the boss. Diboromon. As far as who that is, let me get that name down. Because I did see Diboromon on the list. I believe I did. Of who I took down. Did I? Yeah, I did take everybody down. Boromon. Yeah, I might have to look again. It's weird, I thought the voice cast was there as far as when I was taking the notes, but okay, we'll do that later. Yeah, you unlock Central Cup for defeating the Boromon. And this is interesting as well, because one thing Mario Kart doesn't have, including this very day, is it doesn't have boss battles. But basically what you do for this one, you kind of go around an arena. You want to get yourself Digivolved. Your Digivolve power doesn't work in bosses, so what you gotta do is you have to find the weapons that come off the conveyor belts. Or actually, no, in this case they don't. You have to go through here. You also have to jump over this goop because that drains your fractal bar. Hello. And when there's a crouch down, shoot him. Basically wait for that crouch down and then fire. And if you do that 3 times within the time limit, you win. It's not too bad, but you do have to figure that out because it is something where it does take some time. Oh, right. Also, he can, okay, no, he just hasn't yet. I think he can teleport around. And you look on the map, you see where the... Okay, I got him. Fantastic. If you look where the gear on the map is in the... oh, yeah, he does move around. Yeah, the gear on the lower right-hand corner of the screen on the map is where he is, and the red dot is you. Okay, hit him there. Fantastic, got him. It's not too bad. Admittedly, you fight all the bosses the same way, although the environments in which you fight them make it a little unique. But in that case, hit him with the laser beam and you're all set. Okay. And by defeating the Boromon, you unlock the... Central Cup. Right. Actually, you know what? I want to take a look at that as far as the Boromon. I want to make sure that I'm getting this down. If I didn't take it down, which I thought I did... I basically took every voice down that I looked at as far as IMDb for this. Yeah, maybe I didn't give you credit. Alright. I guess he's in this. I guess it's Paul St. Peter. Did I not take him down? Maybe I should just look for that. I just want to make sure to give credit to everybody. That's my main indication right now above anything else. Yeah, sorry for the delay. I just want to make sure that, you know, I do care enough about getting everybody set as far as how this is. Although, from what I understand, apparently the credits don't actually indicate that they're in this game. Okay, maybe that's the thing. They just didn't indicate that that was the idea. But since this does share the same voices from the TV show, that's the case. Okay, I guess I'll do this this way. Okay, it's Paul St. Peter. He is, let's see, let's take a look at some credits of his. A lot of animes. He was Jorgun on Gurren Lagann. He was Dozo and Tales of Fantasia. He's Jack the Ripper on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay, that's gonna be a case I know some friends of mine are gonna like that. Let's see, anything else of interest? Along with Digimon, of course. He was Amakurasu in Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. We're gonna have that going on for some other voice cases. And, Kurama on Boruto, which is the Naruto Next Generation series, basically the next level of the Naruto case, which actually we've not shown any games based on that franchise yet. I kind of want to show the ones from Xbox 360, which are Naruto, Rise of Ninja, and Naruto the Broken Bond, because they're developed by the people who made Splinter Cell. And they're pretty good as far as me playing them. I said, yeah, they kind of said, let's give the Splinter Cell team, Ubisoft Montreal, these games, and they kind of turned into something of a stealth game with some beautiful graphics. And also some really interesting gameplay elements. As we're going to go to the Central Cup, we're going to the volcanoes, snow-capped mountains, the caves, and the Cloud Kingdom. And the caves gave me a hell of a time doing the medal there for the quick race. In this case, we're going to Lava Lands. There we go. Also, if you fall in the lava, you're going to get yourself hurt. I also love the touch of seeing the wheel coming off of the lava when you fall in there. But in this case, same deal. Basically, build the fractal bar up as much as you can. And also use your items smartly. Kind of like Mario Kart, and just like Mario Kart and a lot of other kart racing games, when you get into last place, you generally speaking will get better items that can even the playing field out a little. Whoa. To also get that jump, I can also take some chances of saying, hey, I can hop over the lava pits, but sometimes fall in. Yeah, that being said, I do want to get my fractal bar up and quick. Right, because they can bounce on. Oh, no. Oh, that was lucky. I thought I was going to fall in the lava. But it is a pretty forgiving game. Unless I really fall into the middle of that, I'll be okay. There we go. Okay, I got the lightning. Oh, the lightning strike. It is like the lightning bolt in Mario Kart, except unlike that one where it shrinks the characters. This one just says stop them cold in their tracks. But it definitely can turn the tide, especially if you use it right. Oh no, but except those creatures, they pick me up and they throw me away. Alright, we are going to get ourselves powered up though. There you go. Alright, there's the needle strike. It sort of shields me. Also, you have like the fire things come around. When they come out and hit you, they do slow you down. Almost. Yeah, it looks like it's a bit of an offensive and defensive strike as far as the needle shot, because... Oh, crap! Okay, that reversed my controls. That's another specific power. There we go. Let's get that needle thing again. It looks like it puts a shield on you for a little bit of time, but then it also shoots the needles out. There you go. Oh! Oh, no. Oh, he's going backwards. Okay, first it's saying, hey, it shows him ahead of me. Why am I in this case? Like, yeah, okay, it is a little bit of a shield. All right, there you go, win. Fantastic. All right, so that was better. Yeah, I do have better handling as far as this one, or if I use Palmon, I should say. Alright, Snow-Capped Mountain. In this case, you have to be careful of those creatures. They can throw snowballs at you, and they freeze if they hit you, so be careful. Also, the Fractal Zone refill station is, or the first one is a little bit off to the side, so you can be careful if you hit it. In this case, we have kind of the snowy mountain going on here, which is pretty nice, but in this case, you have to hit this and then jump in order to make it. Because you hit that speed boost on the ground, and then at the edge of the chasm there, you have to make the jump. In this case, I basically just steer around to avoid getting hit by those things. Because I do not want to get hit by the snowballs. Yeah, and also in this case, shortcut is right past this. And sometimes the AI will take it, so you do have to be careful of the ones who will. So yeah, there's definitely some interesting things going on here that are going to keep you on your toes. And also, be careful not to fall off. Oh no. It's still early in the race, so we got some time. Yeah, don't cry, Palmon. We'll have this. There we go. See, it's funny, in my test, I barely took that at all, but I'm realizing, okay, I gotta take it. And also, you do want to stay in your champion form as much as you can, because you go faster, as mentioned. Okay, so yeah, okay, it does split out as far as the way the needle strike is. Alright, he got hit with the ice. But in that case, since I did make contact, that was the case. Alright, ooh. In that case, even though the charging station's over there, in this case, I feel it's okay to skip it. Okay. Also, as we're pointing out, when you use your items, the fractal bar will go down, so you do have to gauge that in particular. Oh no. Oh. Whoop. Okay. Yeah, I think we might be able to pull this out, but I don't want to be completely set on this. Yeah, because the steering's a little bit of a tough thing, so that's something where you have to get used to it. Which, yeah, that sounds like a big sticking point, saying, hey, I'm having trouble steering in a racing game. Yes, but it's also something where it is partially character dependent, so that's part of it. And to be fair, Palmon does not have great steering as it is, but I can sort of circumvent that with Pop. Oh no! Right at the end! Yeah, unfortunately, that's like any kart racing game, that can happen. I mean, mainly it's a case where not even Mario Kart is immune from that. Unfortunately, because I didn't, I got last, I get no points. But I'm still in second. Yeah, the caves, though. Alright, this is gonna be a tough one, but let's see how this goes. Also a nice effect as far as the background, but one that also can be a little disorienting, because you're seeing there, you're driving ahead. It looks like you're heading towards the gate over there. Just remember, eyes on the road. That's basically the way you want to go as far as this. Or eyes on this road. Out of the way. And then be careful in the mine carts, but you can jump over them. And also, when you go over the game's frame rate is definitely taking a bit of a dive. Whoa! Oh no! Yeah, I definitely had to have that happening, because otherwise I was going to go too slow. Now, there's a shortcut there as far as it, but right now, since I'm dead last, I'm not going to take it, because there's a charge station. I do have time to catch up. Alright, but yeah, he fell through the hole, so that's fine. Also, one thing that makes turning a little easier, I've noticed, is that you either do braking when you're around a turn, but also feathering the D-pad, basically just tapping a little bit. That can actually kind of help. Particularly for a character like this, where there's questions on the handling skill. Okay, also, that item I got with what looks like the battery, that does give you a full recharge of your fractal gauge, so you do have your Digivolve power ready to go right away. This is close. Also, you go over the tracks, you do bounce on your own, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Not that it really factors too much. In this case, these are pits, so that's why you're jumping over them. In that case, yeah, let me switch between this. Actually, no, for now, I'm going to use this. Not just for the attack thing, but also for the shield, and I might be able to... Oh, no! Bastard. Okay, still won. Okay, awesome. That was, hairy, but I made it. Use that right at the end. It's like, uh-oh, am I gonna lose? Thankfully not. Okay. Okay, I am winning, so if I win the next race, we're good. But we'll have to see how that goes, because next up is the Cloud Kingdom. Soar above the clouds, but be careful of the Opposimon's fun-loving appearance. They can cause trouble. Avoid them. There we go. But it does look nice up here. That being said, the fractal zones are kind of... I guess it's almost... Usually it's kind of in a line, or like in a curve. In this case, we're scattered out. Alright, here you go. Those are those things. They can shoot you with the arrows, stay away. Wait, they shoot... No, right, they throw the bottles at you. That's right. And also, just like Mario Kart Super Circuit, they will give you the little warnings on the front of the screen when they tell you, hey, what turn is coming up, or like caution zone. Which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, unless I'm forgetting this, or if I'm remembering incorrectly, I guess, I think Mario Kart Super Circuit is the only Mario Kart game that has something like that. I don't think any of the other ones do. I know oh, that was lucky. Okay, so glad to know that when you fall off, I guess the lightning strike, as they call it in this, it doesn't affect you. So you have like the invincibility thing. Actually, kind of like how the pie pan invincibility thing with Snowboard Kids a few weeks ago was. Right, out of my way. Yeah, luckily I haven't been hit by those things, which is good. Oh no. Oh, where'd he go? Okay, either way, I'm not complaining. I won, so we're good. We finished the cup, and we're gonna win. I guess he fell off. I'm gonna have to take a look back on the video and see what happened. Okay, there we go. So we did win. 81 points. Fantastic. And I love how this looks. This looks terrific. And the fact that Game Boy Advance is doing those 3D renders, that is pretty nice. Okay, so next up, as far as that, let's take a look. We got another boss battle, but also we're gonna swap characters as well, because we are gonna show everybody. Okay, Patamon's next. Patamon, let's see, voice case for you is... Patamon. There you go. Patamon is voiced by as well. Well, Patamon and Tokomon are voiced by Laura Jill Miller. She was the voice of Haru on Beastars, a series that Ed Wag mentioned once on the show. I think it's like of animal human creatures. She was also the voice of Ally Whoops on the animated series of Curious George, the Curious Little Monkey, which came out, I believe, around 2007, so after the movie came out in 2006. She was also the voice of Kiss of Steel in Phantom Brave for the PlayStation 2. She's Fom in Sky Gunner for the PlayStation 2, which is a very anime-inspired fight game that I've heard is really good. One of the underrated gems on the PS2 from what people tell me. She was also the voice of Scooter in Ribbit King for the PlayStation 2 and GameCube. That's an interesting one. It's a... follow me on this one, Chad, if you've never played it. It was published by Bandai as well, as far as the same year as this, from 2004. It's a game where you play golf, but it's called Frolf. Because the idea is what happens is you have these little frogs, you hit a mallet down onto like a spring, like when you flip them into the lily pads at like a carnival or something like that. And it is like golf, and the idea is you have to get them in the hole within a par. But the idea is that after you make the hit, sometimes they'll go into areas like in water where they can get further distances. They might bounce off of like a spider web or something to get further. Or they may get caught by a creature and have to wiggle the right analog stick in order to get them out. It's a really interesting game. It costs a lot of money on the GameCube in particular. The PS2 version's less. I think we would be running the PS2 version as far as it for that reason. But also, just going back to Laura Jill Miller. I'm thinking Penelope Ann Miller, sorry. I don't know if Penelope Ann Miller's in the game. I wish she was. And there's no Kindergarten Cop game, so it's not that. Laura Jill Miller was the voice of Dinky in the Tak game, specifically Tak, the Power of Juju, Tak 2, Staff of Dreams, and Tak and the Guardians of Gross. I do want to show a couple of those, specifically Staff of Dreams. That game's really, really good from Avalanche Software. That was the people who would go on to make Just Cause. She was also the voice of Malika Phage in Psychonauts. That's a game I want to show off from Tim Schafer's company, Double Fine. She was also Juniper Lee on The Lifetimes of Juniper Lee, as well as Toon Chada Levy on Winx Club, Lisa on The Loud House, and Sharithi in Kingdom Hearts 3. Alright, as far as Patamon's concerned, Patamon is about accelerating quickly and handling okay, but not very fast. And the power, as far as Patamon, is the Hand of Fate. So, the Hand of Fate's coming to pull you under, perhaps. So let's go. But yeah, looks so cute, so how's that gonna go? But we'll find out. Alright, so let's go to the next cup. And since I did have everything unlocked, it does start you back at the beginning as far as how it is. So, since it was the Central Cup we finished, let's take a look at the boss here. Yeah, because this is the final boss. This is Malomyotismon. That voice was credited. I know I saw that on the list as far as when I was taken down. Because just to give you an idea, like, how I do the notes on this, I think I've mentioned this a couple times before, but may as well mention it now. I usually do these on my lunch break at work. It's a case where either I'm demoing something because they expect to switch online day out of me as far as my friends and my coworkers during my lunch break, or I'm showing some weird collection I picked up, or doing a Bad Game Thursday thing, or they might be. In another case, I'm just not writing the notes down. In this case, yeah, we have Malomyotismon, who is voiced by Dan Lorge, who voiced Walla on El Hazard, as well as Gonzo, Henta, and Shirojo on Rurouni Kenshin. And also, in my case, I was very happy to indicate this. Actually, let's get Malomyotismon. Okay, no, that's in the announcer. But actually, he is also the voice of Inspector Zenigata from Lupin the Third, particularly the dubbed version of it. And also, when we get to Lupin the Third, Treasures of the Sorcerer King for the PlayStation 2, they do have the full voice cast of the anime from the dubbed version from the 2000s. So that does mean we'll hear him when we get to that, as well as Tony Oliver, who is Lupin as far as that. I want to show that game off. It's not a great game, admittingly, as far as a stealth game, because they follow the Splinter Cell thing. I've mentioned that game actually a lot tonight, as I'm realizing. But with Lupin, and for the presentation alone, it's really interesting, but some of the mechanics are kind of weird. But that being said, yeah, he's the voice of Inspector Zenigata, so in that case, we'll assume it's like the Lupin case as far as myself, but let's go to town on him. Now, for this battle, it is the same as the other ones they have to do to take a shot, but the thing is that you start on the outside, so you have to kind of race around in order to get your way in. And you have to kind of go to the center and also pick up items as you go. But also, yeah, I'll shoot the energy out. Basically, in this case, just try and get to the center to start. Yeah, I guess it's like a deeper take on Zenigata. I never really thought that as far as how it was. Okay, that was too late. If you do hit when he's not in kneel state or kneeling state, yeah, it won't do anything. Okay, just get yourself kneeling on the ground, please. Like that. And then the weapons will come back. I do like this. It is kind of interesting how this is handling a boss fight, saying, hey, you have to do a fight. Let's just do a wait. Admittedly, all the bosses are fought the same way, but they do vary it up with the course. Really. Also, you do have reverse hit down on the B button in order to use it. Go. But as long as you wait for how the animation is, and also when the voice goes off, you'll be set. Yeah, and the model's pretty detailed as far as the thing on the side of him opening up, but there we go, got him. Alright, so off you go. Okay, so. Yeah, that's too bad. I'm thinking, I guess, the Zenigata thing where it says, crap, 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 crap. Well, yeah, sorry, we'll see you later, as far as it. I guess when you think about it, almost like a gruffer take, or even angrier take on J. Jonah Jameson, particularly the way J.K. Simmons played him in the Spider-Man films, as far as like, I gotta get a Spider-Man! Or it's like, oh, shy? We get a picture of Julia Roberts in a thong, we start getting a picture of this weirdo. Okay, so next up, we're gonna go to the Burning Cup. This is where they're gonna split the courses up, so they are gonna have some of the ones we've seen before, but what they're gonna do is they're only gonna have 3 of them, and they are gonna be enhanced a little bit as far as difficulty going on. More because of the AI thing, from what I've gathered. Go. As I mentioned, the scope of this play, as far as tonight, is going to be us showing off all of the courses, all the cups, and all of the Digimon. And all the boss battles, which we have shown them all off, but there is Boss Cup, which has you fight all 3 of them in a row. Alright, so we got the Digivolve, but then I got it bounced off because it bounced on the head. Whoa. Oh no, I got reversed. Okay, there you go. And you can tell that with the swirl around, but that's also the only thing as far... Oh, there's like only one character who has that, I believe. And I don't... It's not me. Yeah, it's not me, because I don't think there's cases of duplicates as far as... Well, there isn't as far as single player, and as far as multiplayer, I don't know. Because I've never played this game in multiplayer, and I do not have what I need in order to do multiplayer, because it requires multiple cartridges for the purpose of doing it. And also, I think we need another Game Boy Advance, because... Oh, okay, that's kind of good. That stopped everybody else, so maybe I can take advantage of that, and yeah, I can. But also, yeah, I need another Game Boy Advance, because technically you can connect an actual Game Boy Advance to the Game Boy player here. But I don't have another one for the purpose of doing it, so I can't. Although, that does mean that when it comes to cases of Game Boy Color, I could do that. And actually, I will be... Actually, oh, right, I forgot. My power is, like a single lightning strike. So in that case, I can use that on someone who's closest to me. But I was just saying, for the Game & Watch Gallery games, I think those are ones I'm going to use. Oh, actually, for Game & Watch Gallery 3, I have that for Game Boy Color. It does run both... Oh, yeah, I will use it for this. I was going to say, because when it comes to showing the Game Boy line on this show, the only things I need to use the Game Boy player to show off for are dedicated Game Boy Color games that only ran on the Game Boy Color itself, and anything from Game Boy Advance. Game Boy games and also Game Boy Color games that had dual mode to them can run on the Super Game Boy, but as far as anything from Game Boy Color makes sense just to show it this way anyway. But for Game & Watch Gallery 3, the other reason is because it has a linkage between Game & Watch Gallery 1 and 2. But I don't have a physical version of 2 yet. I'll probably look for a copy of that too many games because it doesn't cost much. And I actually have to get my cartridge of the first one fixed because the battery's dead. So it doesn't save scores anymore. Because there's something I want to show off in the third one that I need to do that for. And actually, when we get to the fourth one, I think I need a second copy for something like that. But that's down the road as far as us figuring that out. I do want to show this Game & Watch Gallery games at some point. But we're going back to Volcano. Yeah, but I was thinking cases where I could do like link cable stuff going on. Ah, crap. Yeah, mostly it would be stuff, I guess, for Game Boy Color as far as it, but as I said, it also would be for specific things. Basically what I'm thinking for Game & Watch Gallery 3 is that you do have to do a linkage of the earlier Game & Watch Gallery games for that. Basically for the purpose of doing all the unlocks in the gallery, which you need to do. Okay, what you need to do is you need to have Game & Watch Gallery 1 or 2, link it to the third one, and then also have 1,000 points out of all of the games, I believe, of 1 and 2. Given how hard some of those games can be, that's tough. And also, it's not a case where Switch Online has re-released Game & Watch Galleries 1, 2, or 4 yet. 3 is up there, but the other ones are not. I don't know why they're not up there yet. I'd have thought there would be no question as far as the license thing on that. Well, it's Nintendo stuff. There's no question. But maybe if I say it now, maybe they'll do it. We'll see. But I was thinking as far as how multiplayer would be for this game, because as I said, you need multiple copies of the game in order to use it, which usually is the case on the portable systems anyway, although the Game Boy Advance did have cases where there's certain things you could play with one cartridge. In fact, Mario Kart Super Circuit is one of those things where they have a single cart mode where it lets you play a limited version of the game if you have only one copy. But you do need to have copies for everybody in order to play full elements. But what they did do was they give you, I think they gave you the battle mode. I'm trying to remember if they gave you the battle mode, but they gave you 4 courses from the Super Nintendo game as far as that, and everybody plays as a different colored Yoshi for the single cart mode in that one. But this game does not have a single cart mode, but what this does have is it does have wireless multiplayer using the wireless adapter, which honestly I did not know this game used until I picked this up. I said, really? It uses that? That was the device that came with Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. I said, at first I was under the impression it was another Nintendo accessory that was used for like one game and then they completely drop it. But in the case of that one, no. Apparently, Kryptonite said, yeah, let's use this for multiplayer. Like, great, but you can still use the link cable method. Alright, there you go. So there's the lightning bolt. Can we get our way through? Third. Okay, that was close. Okay. Alright, I'm in the middle now, so we gotta be careful. Okay, Desert Oasis, that's next. Actually, right, it's only 3 courses, so I'm probably not gonna win. But honestly, for this, that's not really the point, just because I got everything unlocked. Because that's really my focus above anything else, to show everything unlocked. And also to get a sense of saying, as I said, is this a good game or not? Which I'd say, I don't know, I think it kind of in a way is. I don't understand why people might not like this as much as Mario Kart or something like that. But I'm surprised how much effort was put into this. Because sometimes you think, well, a car racing game like this would be the easiest way to make money, but then I realized, well, no, this does have some things going on about itself that kind of elevated it a little bit. Which I guess then let's talk about that, I guess, of other Mario Kart adjacent games, or I guess the Mario Kart ripoffs, as people call it. I mean, this plays a lot like it, but I think there are some unique things that make it have this unique feel of its own. Especially that Digivolve system. I love that. But as far as other ones, because the Game Boy Advance had a ton of them. I know there's one, Shrek Swamp Car. I never played that one. Don't know if it's any good or not. I know the reputation of some of the Shrek games, except for Shrek 2 from PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, usually are not very good. And that's being nice. What do you think about that? I mean, we looked at a couple on the Dreamcast. We looked at Wacky Races. We looked at South Park Rally. We looked at Looney Tunes Space Race, of which, of those, Looney Tunes Space Race is definitely the best one. Nothing necessarily against Wacky Races, but Wacky Races also has some weird stuff when it comes to being shockingly difficult, particularly for the single player. And South Park Rally is not as awful, I don't think, as its reputation is, but on the Dreamcast, it's that's where that applies, because on PlayStation and N64, they're terrible. So in that case, as I mentioned when we looked at it, it's a case where it's buttressed by the fact that it's on a system that didn't have a whole lot of Mario Kart-like games, and also a case that didn't really have a whole lot of competition of saying, oh wow, play those games instead of this. And honestly, even in the case of this one, I would not necessarily say, oh, this is you should just stick with the other ones and avoid this, as far as saying, get Mario Kart Super Circuit instead of this. I mean, if you don't have Mario Kart Super Circuit, I'd say get that before this, but if you like Digimon, I think you're gonna have a fun time with this one too. And I'd probably say this is a better one than something like South Park Rally. In South Park Rally's case, I'll go out again, we got 4th place, unfortunately, on this. And that's a case where they tried not to be a straight knockoff of Mario Kart. But what ironically happened there is they kind of made it more complicated. So in that case, people looked at it and said, how am I supposed to get into this if there's like the weird way this game plays? And I kind of understand what they're talking about on that one. Okay, so who's next on our list as far as we haven't shown? Tentomon. Okay, Tentomon is voiced by... So in this case, there's also going to be a bit of a delay. I got to vamp a little bit while I find Tentomon's voice performer. Tentomon. There you are. Okay, Tentomon, as well as Montamon and Kabuteramon, is voiced by Jeff Nimoy. He actually was involved with the translation of Digimon as a show. He also wrote and directed Digimon the movie from 2000. No, it's 2000, right. He also wrote on the TV series Stitch, as well as Zatch Bell and Bobo. It's an anime series. I guess that's how it's pronounced. I don't know if I've actually ever heard anybody pronounce the show's name. But he did do a lot of voices on Digimon, including these. And also he was the voice of Nicholas D. Wolfwood on Trigun, and he also had a bit part as a waiter in the 1990 film Funny About Love, which starred Gene Wilder. Late Gene Wilder. I heard it's not very good, but it was kind of interesting to think about. Like, yeah, what Digimon Racing play is going to talk about Funny About Love? Only Super Bowl Game Saturdays. But yeah, Tentomon is here for that, so let's take a look at what we want to do with Tentomon. Let's take a color we haven't used. Let's run... Yeah, nice silver. As far as Tentomon, he is best handling of the game, basically. Speed and acceleration are okay, and his power is Electroshocker. Actually, I did use Tentomon a lot when I was doing my practice, and the handling of him is terrific. So we show that next. So next is Frozen Cup. Alright, so Frozen Cup, we are going to go across some places we already saw, particularly the Cloud Kingdom, the Snow-Capped Mountain, and the Polar Iceland. But either way, more time to go into what we got here. And I'll show the powers and all that stuff. Alright, so off we go. I also do love that thing with the speed boost. You kind of just go through it. And also I like the designs as far as when they digivolve. But even when they, I guess, what's the opposite of evolving? I guess digi-devolve? I don't know if the show actually goes into that. Because usually the thought is that they get their power... Right, because I know how Digimon works is that the digivolving is not permanent. At least not... In some cases it isn't. It's usually a case where they kind of power up as they go, and then they do stuff with battling, but then they kind of go back to their other forms. I know that's how Agumon tends to work on the show. He'll become his champion form, but then he'll kind of go back to the other way. So it's not like Pokemon, where in Pokemon's case, whenever the evolution happens, they go to a new form and they're not coming back. So the idea is that, in fact, there's even a couple episodes of the anime that go into that, like with Pikachu saying, hey, you know what? When Ash and him are fighting Lieutenant Switch, and they say, hey, he has his Raichu who's gonna defeat you, baby. He says, like, well, you know what? Maybe you could evolve Pikachu into Raichu by using a Thunderstone. But he's like, well, you know what? If I use this, he's not going to be Pikachu anymore. Is it wrong for me to force Pikachu to do this just because I want to win a gym badge? And he openly says, like, hey, Pikachu, you know what? I'm leaving the choice to you. What do you want to do? And you're just kind of sitting there for a while. And he knocks it away, and he explains in a way that Ash sort of understands, but also... with Team Rocket, who are looking to kidnap Pikachu, since Meowth speaks English, but he also speaks Pokemon language, he's able to understand exactly what Pikachu's saying. He's saying, what's he saying? He's saying, like, he doesn't want to change as far as this. He wants to still be the Pikachu as he is, and also, you know, defeat Lieutenant Surge as Raichu on his own. He's like, oh my god, that's so beautiful. So in that case of saying, you know, in that series, it is a permanent thing, whereas in this one, it's kind of just a temporary thing. I guess it's like a bit of a growth spurt or something like that, I guess. But I know I'm completely, and I apologize to this to any Digimon fans in the audience, I know I'm completely simplifying that, or oversimplifying it, I should say. I know there's a lot more to it than that, as we got third place on this. But like I said, I just don't know it well. I mean, I'm good, and I'll openly admit that. But that's also why I love showing games like this, because I know people come in like, oh my god, I love a franchise that maybe I don't have familiarity with just as much as I might say, oh, I know this franchise, and I can go into all these deep things, like, oh wow, I never knew this. So it is that sharing of information, that sharing of ideas, and as I mentioned also, for certain things, I'll find out trivia when I'm doing the notes, when it comes to the voice performance things in this game, but also other stuff of who made it. It sometimes takes me by surprise in the case where things I didn't know coming in. So in that way, it ultimately works out, and it means that even if it's something where I don't know a whole lot on something, I'll find out for all you, but also I'll find out, I guess, selfishly for myself, seeing, oh wait, I can kind of understand this, and sometimes they do, like, hey, I'll do actual research of, well, notes, yes, but also for other things, when we looked at Bakugan to finish the core last year, I said, unlike Digimon, where I've seen the show a few times, that I'd never seen. So I said, let me take a look at that, because we do that game. And it kind of helped. It was giving me a sense of saying, okay, what is this? And I was even asking other people around, saying, what's your experience with this? And I asked that with this one. I said, hey, who knows Digimon as far as this? There are a couple people who did. But a lot of cases, mostly with Pokemon. But that being said, it was something interesting to understand a little bit of the bits and pieces that was going around. Oh no! But I do like the designs as far as how they look, and even the way that the 3D models go on this. It is pretty interesting. And also, I guess the other difference is that unlike Pokemon, where most of the Pokemon do not speak in English, except Meowth. In this one, they do. So in that case, when they have their, I guess their human, well, sort of trainers, or I guess friends and things like that, the way they indicate that, they are cases where they're kind of having just a normal conversation, which is kind of interesting. Whoa. Oh no. Alright, this is good, but also I'm not going that fast. There you go, lightning strike, boom, off you go. Yeah, that's the best thing you can get if you get it, but usually you gotta be in last place to find it. I guess as far as other kart racing games, other ones that people say are worse designed than this. I mean, I'll talk about that, but I guess I'll also talk about, I guess, what's the worst kart racing game. I mean, if I'm coming to the play for this game saying, yeah, this has some interesting things going on, and I would say that if this looks interesting to you, or if you're a fan of Digimon, you might want to give it a shot. I don't think it's going to be a waste of your time or money. I guess I'll think of what's the worst kart racing game to play. Chat, what do you think? What some of the worst kart racing games you've ever played are? Some of the worst ones that people said, of which one I know that people told me, and I know was reviewed very badly when it came out, was Star Wars Super Bombad Racing. It was on PlayStation 2. It was going to be on the Dreamcast, but it was canceled. But from what that one did is that it had super deformed characters from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, as you basically raced around in sort of pod racers. But the way the game operated, its frame rate was really slow, like really slow. I mean, this one has some slowdown here and there, but that one it was apparently all the time, and that was early PlayStation 2, so you think, well, the PlayStation 2 should be able to handle something like that, but not really. In cases where the way the track design seems like you were kind of getting caught in ways that seemed like it was weird. Shortcuts were labeled weirdly, so it seemed like you might be going the wrong way by accident. Whereas in this case, the course designs are pretty good. I mean, they seem like they're pretty typical, but cases where I don't get the sense that, hey, I'm getting myself turned around too much. Or when I am, it makes a little bit of sense as to why. And not a case that seems like, oh, it's really badly designed. I guess as far as the worst car racing game I ever played, I don't know. I mean, think about this. I'm trying to think of all the car racing games I've played. I mean, I guess it would be South Park Rally, I guess, but I also don't hate that game as much as other people. But as I said, I played it on the Dreamcast, which is absolutely the way to go if you're going to play it. But it costs a lot of money on the Dreamcast, unfortunately. I guess I'd say that. I guess I'll say that one, but I also don't think it's that bad a game, honestly. It was not on that system. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, well, okay, I know. Well, all right. I guess as far as I know in my circles, as far as people being on the show, I know this maybe is a case where this is sort of cheating a little bit, although the game itself is kind of whatever, but one version of it has problems. That is Team Sonic Racing. That was the third of the Sonic and Sega racing games. Okay, never mind. That's the reverse control. Is that a reverse control thing? I'm getting hit by tons of lightning. But yeah, on the Switch, for Team Sonic Racing, we played the multiplayer. Edwack brought it in. He said, hey, you know, my brother bought this on PlayStation 4. He gave me the Switch copy of him. We played the multiplayer. The multiplayer for 4 players on that console is like 15, 20 FPS, whereas as far as the frame rate. But like Mario Kart 8, which is porting from Wii U, that's 30 frames per second in 4-player and pretty smooth. And I think I even asked Edwack, I said, why'd your brother do this to you? What did you do to him? Is he mad at you or something? But it was a case where the game played fine, and even when we were doing it, I was doing pretty well as far as how I'm playing. Like, how are you so good at this game? You never played this, he said. It's like, yeah, you're right, I never played it, but I did play the other 2 Sonic and Sega racing games, so in that case, I knew what I was doing as far as how to do the drifting and all that stuff. But that was just more of a tech problem. Although, as far as Team Sonic Racing itself goes, it is the weakest of the 4 Sonic racing games like that, honestly. And I didn't get a great finish here. Because I had the Xbox One version, which would be the one we'd show we played. But despite some interesting things about that, particularly like the team concept where you kind of have to switch items around to your buddies on your team so you can kind of... Basically, the idea is you want to win, but you also want to help your other players win if you can't win. Which I think is interesting. And it is, ex-members of Gremlin Games who made Top Gear who made that, who also made the first 2 Sonic and Sega racing games. But, I don't know, it felt kind of... I don't know, it felt empty. despite the fact that it plays pretty decently. And then the next one they did, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, that was Sonic Team who made that, which is pretty good of what I've played of it so far. And Aqua Cup is next, just to make sure that's right. Yes, it is. Aqua Cup is next. And they're still adding new characters and things to that one. At some point, we'll play that. I'd buy that on Xbox Series X, so that's going to be on the table as well. And I also did buy Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, the first one, because I know we talked about that. And we could show that, but I do want to do unlocks on that, and also there are parts of that that use licensed music, particularly the Samba de Amigo stuff, because there's some of the songs from the Samba de Amigo game, so I have to dance around that. Okay, so next up is Biyomon, who I think that is Deborah Felice Sampler's voicing Biyomon. Let me just confirm that. Because I mentioned there's a lot of shared voices in this, and actually, some of the big ones I haven't talked about yet. Let's see. Yeah, Biyomon, it is Deborah Felice Sampler voicing as far as that. Great acceleration as far as Biyomon. Handling is not hot, speed is slow, but does digivolve into something pretty nice, though, as you're seeing over there. And I like the color of the card, so we're going to stick with this. Alright, there we go. Alright, so next up after the, what was it, the Arctic Cup? Oh, the Frozen Cup, it's the Aqua Cup. So this one's going to a lot of the water areas, and they do kind of go in theme, and I do like that. Yeah, swamp bog, coastline, underwater. Yeah, admittedly, these are the same courses that we saw before, because there's only about 12 courses, but it's still not bad. Although, to be fair, there are more courses in Mario Kart Super Circuit. Super Circuit has... let me think about that. Yeah, stop, get off me. Yeah, there's 40 courses in that game, not least of which because, Mario Kart Super Circuit, along with having its own courses, has every single course from Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. Alright, here's the power we got. Fire Burst. Okay, it's a strong boost that looks like also gives me invincibility properties. Oh, right, it does. Right, because I saw that when we were at the volcano a while ago. Alright, at least that stopped him. So actually, that's a pretty damn good power. But also you have the bomb. You drop that down on the course. Yeah, my speed, though, isn't that great, so I have to buttress that around to avoid getting passed. Oh, okay, there we go. That was lucky. Also, as far as when you get hit by those Pixelmons, they will get close. When you get close to them, they'll come by. So be just try and stay out of the way. Oh no, I got reverse control. Oh no. Yeah, you can get out of the way, but oftentimes something where you're not going to expect that happening, so you have to really react quick, and in that case, it was not quick enough. Alright, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shortcut as we come along, because I didn't last time. Or last lap, I should say. Yeah, it's right here. Okay, yeah, that one went splash, which is good, I guess, for me. I do like the jump thing. That is actually that is a nice mechanic as far as how it is. And it's not the same as Mario Kart, because usually with Mario Kart, aside from the feather in the games that give it to you, which is really not much, it's only Mario Kart, actually, Super Mario Kart, it's, Mario Kart 8, both versions of it, and, Mario Kart World. Those are the only ones that give you the feather. Actually, no, it's not both versions of Mario Kart 8. I'm wrong. Fuck what I just said. It's, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the Switch one. The Wii U one didn't have it. In this case, they say, yeah, we'll just make it a specific button. No, that probably was not a good idea, although... Oh, I was gonna say, the shield does hold when I come out of, you know, being pulled out by the invisible force. It's not Lakitu from Mario Kart who's doing that. Whoop, whoop. Alright, let's drop the bomb. Alright, not bad. Given how I'm at a speed disadvantage, I would have thought that would have been a lot worse, but alas, it was not. Okay. Alright, well, let's go back to Coastline. I do like the fact that each of the courses do have their own kind of feel, and also some specific things that kind of give them a little bit of life, particularly in the idea here where you have the treasure chests that are around. We also saw back there, like, there's the sand castles as well. And you can run into them, and they do hang around, or they do crumble, but it also just slows you down, so you have to be careful there. But there's some nice visual spice. But yeah, they're bouncing on my head, so yeah, that can't go. Actually really good at bouncing on my head, I'm realizing. Okay, there you go. You do have to be in your Digivolve form to make that jump, because otherwise you're not going fast enough. Out of my way. And also, if you are in your Digivolve form and you bash into enemies that are not, it'll make them spin out. Whoa! In that case, I'm also going to switch that off. Also, one thing I do like is the fact that the weapons do go across pits or water. So it's not like Mario Kart where you shoot it towards something like that and it'll fall down if there's a pit or something in the way. Whoa. Alright, there we go. Actually, that is an insane buff as far as the power. I like this a lot. In a way, this kind of makes it almost like a platforming game in a strange way. I guess because A, you have a dedicated jump button that actually is a high enough jump. You can use that for the purpose of navigating courses. And honestly, I can't really think of a whole lot of kart racing games that have something like this, where they kind of have this feel of saying, hey, you know, I can make this jump and win. And then also, in a sense of saying, for shortcuts, but also almost like a case of a platforming thing. A little bit. Yeah, and I won. And it's a tie, so, against Wheelmon, yeah, whoever wins the next race in underwater, in the glassy, underwater lab, is gonna take it all. And even the idea of the bubbles, I never actually stopped and noticed that as far as in the background. Actually, so I guess we are in, like, an underwater dome or something like that. In that case, yeah, let's go. Yeah, okay, I'm learning as far as that saying, as soon as you can Digivolve, do it. That's usually the idea of how you want to go. And also, in a lot of the courses, you do seem to have a lot of... Okay, that was weird. You saw that. It looked like the graphics scrambled because I had so many creatures on screen, and I guess the game couldn't handle it. I mean, that'll be good for the glitch compilation we're doing at the end of the year. Actually, I don't know if I mentioned that explicitly, but I may as well, since we are going to the same courses, and there's a couple other discussion points I want to get into. Also, depending on how this is, I did mention a while ago, before I said we're going to do this, I might also look at Mario Kart Super Circuit as a point of comparison if I go through this too quick, but as I said, I'll see about that. Yeah, basically, in this case, we can just kind of keep going on as is. Exactly. There is one point of discussion I want to make, and honestly, I might wait for that. I mean, I do want to give attention as far as this game that way. I'm not going to necessarily hijack it or have Mario Kart necessarily hijack the thing. Yeah, this is the focus of tonight's show. And to think I have actually not shown Mario Kart live on the show yet. After all this time, we've not played Mario Kart game live on the program. Part of the reason for that has been because I want to do Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo first, number one, as far as live, and also because I know I can't do any of those games alone. I have to have people. At least one person, as far as one of them, to show off the multiplayer. Although the one I did show in our Switch 2 Chronicles last year when I did that. For the first part, I did show Mario Kart World as far as a little bit of preview, which also was my first time playing it. Basically, right after I got Switch 2 and opened the box and started doing the recording on that, I then said, okay, I'm doing this for the purpose of this off-screen content. I'm going to do it and look at that game for the first time. Well, actually, no, not look at it the first time. That's a lie. Look at for the first time for myself owning it, because I'd played it with friends before I'd gotten Switch 2. Actually, yeah, in that case, yeah, we've run kart racing games that are not Mario Kart. Actually, decently as far as a couple times. Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transform, we've given that 2 shows. This one, reviewed Wacky Races and Looney Tunes Space Race and South Park Rally. I'm trying to think of, and I guess Snowboard Kids would count. I was gonna say, what other kart racing games would count to that? And since we did, yeah, I did win. Yeah, we got that set. Alright, so who's next on character line? We are going to show everybody. Solomon. Okay, Solomon, not Solomon. Not Solomon. Or yeah, Solomon. Okay, yeah, Solomon. Solomon is voiced by... Here we go. Voiced by, well, Solomon as well as Birdramon, Nairamon, and Gatomon are all voiced by Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. She was the voice of Queen Metalia on the Viz dub of Sailor Moon. She also was Helga and Emma Wylance, I think it is, in Dot Hack, the first 4 on the PlayStation 2, as is. Yeah, she got the gold cup. Oh, thank you. Okay, I didn't remember if I did. It's weird. It's like I was on a discussion point and forgot about it. But also for Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, she was the voice of Malice in Riviera the Promised Land, which was on Game Boy Advance, but there also is a modern support of that for the Switch. She was also the voice of Medusa in Castlevania Lament of Innocence for the PlayStation 2. She's the voice of Sienna, and she was the narrator of Phantom Brave for PlayStation 2, a game I want to show from Nipponichi Software. I might do that for the last scoping session I've got that I haven't filled as far as a game for it. Not last one I'm going to do in the year, but one of the last ones that I don't have already indicated. She was the voice of Kika and Jean in Persona 4, or no, Suikoden 4, not Persona 4. Getting ahead of myself. She was also the voice, actually, of Makoto Kusanagi on Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, and also in the game based on it. She was the voice of Doctus in Xenosaga 3, Captain Dulce in Eternal Sonata for PS3 and 360, Nora Estheim in Final Fantasy 13. She's been the voice of Nina Williams in the Tekken games ever since Tekken 5. She's Cetrian in Mortal Kombat 11, and she is Heidelin in Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, that being the first indication of Final Fantasy XIV, which is worth pointing out. We have a scoping session of Final Fantasy XIV coming up, and 2 weeks from today, we're not going to be on, but we'll have Friday's show, number 1 for that, and number 2, Chasm 22, Crusader 64, and AJ42 will be here for our recording of off-screen content we're going to have up in June for you to prep for our look at Final Fantasy XIV. Anyway, she's not in because, as Chasm 22 is going to mention later, probably on that show we're recording, Final Fantasy XIV, the massively multiplayer online RPG, went through 2 forms of itself. First was A Realm Reborn, and then it kind of stopped, and then it rebranded itself and rebuilt itself, and it came out again, and that's the version of the game that has been running ever since. And so runs since very day. As far as Solomon has a really nice power, by the way, in that Cat's Eye Hypno. Basically, it will hypnotize opponents when you hit them with it. As far as stats, it's average across the board, but that's a good thing because it means that you'll be decent as far as everything you got. As far as color, actually, I like that color. Actually, almost like the... Oh, no, it's cat. At first, I was like, wait a second, it's like a rabbit. Like, no, it's a cat. Sorry. Okay, so next, as far as what we're going to do, let's see. We're going to the city. We're going to the urban cup, so all the urban area... Well... Actually, wait, there's only one urban area. It's the Toy Town. That's it. Okay, never mind. So, yeah, we're going to town one way. But then we're going to the clouds and to the jungle. I guess that's going to be the idea. Okay. So off we go. Okay, first I was saying, yeah, I guess it's the urban cup. I was like, yeah, I guess they say the urban jungle, but now it's like the jungle. So, okay, fair enough for that. Or as I said when we did Shadow Hearts Covenant, it's like, Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses, when he says, you know where you are? You're in the jungle, baby. You're gonna die. Although in this case, yeah, we're not gonna die. We're just going to race around and maybe cause pain to all these other Digimon, but I think it's gonna be no hard feelings. Oh, no, it's also worth pointing out. I also don't know necessarily what rivalries are looking like, because again, as I mentioned, I am openly indicating my lack of knowledge in this franchise. Keep that in mind for something I'm going to talk about later, which does relate to, well, a certain movie that came out this weekend. We'll talk about that later. because I did go to it last night, and I'll talk about it later, just in general. In fact, if I'm going to be pulling out Mario Kart Super Circuit for any reason, it's because of that. Like I said, I'll see what's going to go on. I will try and gauge that just to get a sense of seeing, well, you know, if I go through this, because actually this is going faster than I thought it was going to. I mean, I guess if I was actually going to be doing the unlocks live on screen, it probably would be longer. But I also said, I don't know, for the purpose of this, I am not good enough to do it as far as how it was actually on screen. And actually, with all the kart racing games we've shown so far, I've not shown the unlock process going on for any of them, as it turned out as far as on the show. I didn't show that with Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed either time. I didn't show it with this one. We only previewed the 3 on the Dreamcast that I mentioned. It's the only one I guess I would. Super Mario Kart for Super Nintendo, that's probably the only one I'll do it with. Well, actually, then again, it doesn't, well... Okay, with, well, actually, I gotta think about that, how I'm gonna handle, Super Mario Kart. Because for that one, it's something where, as I guess, yeah, that one put the shield up, so yeah, it didn't do much good. Let me think about that. I guess I'll probably do with that one the same thing I did in this one, which is saying I'm going to show off all the cups, in that case, all of the engine sizes. Although I know on one of those I do have to actually win it. I have to win the special cup on at least 100 or 150cc, which I will do. But also that's a case where I know that game really well, so in that case I think I can manage it for that one. Oh no! Alright, third. Yeah, I almost had it, but, yeah, not good enough. Oh, let's go to the town. Yeah, the Toy Town, which honestly looks like another sort of car racing game we have not shown on the show yet. That is Mega Man Battle and Chase. It was on PlayStation, and it only has one release in this country as of now. And, actually, that's a game that celebrated 30 years of itself this year. Its only release in the US came out 20 years ago. That was in the Mega Man X collection for GameCube and PlayStation 2. And that's an interesting one, because what that one is it's a kart racing game, sorta, but it's also something that, as you drive around, you basically beat the enemies, and we did get the cat's-like power, so we used that. Right, that's the one that reverses the controls. Yeah, you get hit by that cat's eye hypno that reverses the controls. That's the one you want. That's what I kept getting hit by when it ran to the reverse control things and running into me. So yeah, in this case, yeah. Solomon is really nice as far as that. But for Mega Man Battle and Chase, it's a case where as you drive and win races, you beat the Robot Masters and you actually get their parts. Kind of like how Mega Man itself works. But what's also interesting to that is you can kind of mix and match it. So you can have different powers as you go along to play around with the courses, especially because they have certain terrains on things. They can have actually some really nice builds on. That being said, it's worth pointing out one thing, which is that since the game didn't originally come out on the PlayStation here, and from what I understand, the reason why is because Sony of America refused to certify it. They would not allow it to be released. I don't know why they wouldn't allow it to be released. It's not because it was a 2D game, because Sony does have a history of doing that. With all due respect to the late Bernie Stoller, he basically was one of those people who pretty much said, with PlayStation 1 early on, we never officially said it, but there are a lot of games that were two-dimensional that we basically rejected from release in this country for that reason alone. Which is the reason why Mortal Kombat 2 is on PlayStation in Japan, but not here. Earthworm Jim 2 is another case of that. But Mega Man Battle and Chase, it is a 3D open game as far as how the racing goes. It actually kind of looks like Ridge Racer to a certain extent as far as how the visual style of it is. So I don't know why they said no as far as allowing it to be released here. It was Europe and Japan that got it. And then years later, the US did eventually get it. But from what I understand, there is a specific... what is this? I'm trying to remember exactly what this is. There's a specific vehicle or vehicle parts that I think are tied to a specific accessory that was only available in Japan, I think. And I believe the version that was ported into the Mega Man X collection, I think they might have dummied that out of the code or something, I think. I do know that some of the games in that, they did make changes for certain things for some reason. I don't know, maybe because for certain things it was also on the GameCube, so that meant that they had to save disk space because that console, the disk capacity was way lower than the PS2. But I don't know if that was the reason. I don't think there was any specific reason, but I do know that, for example, in that release, Mega Man X6 has voice acting. Japanese voice acting, yes, but it has voice acting. For some reason, the port in that does not have voice acting at all. And I don't know why that is. To the point where when I first played it, I said, there's no voice acting in this game. What are you talking about? Yes, there is. I played, what are you talking about? I was like, I played X Collection on the PS2, to which they said, X Collection cut it out for some reason. Why'd it cut it out? I don't know. So when I get to Mega Man X6, and I'm going to be one controlling that, but we're not going to touch that till we touch the other ones. Having said that, I'm going to run, well, the only one I got, which is not that, well, no, it's not the only one I got. I have two ports. I have X Collection, but I also have the Mega Man X Legacy Collection too. So that's how I'm going to run that. Because I don't have that one on the PlayStation 1 itself, but that's, I think, how it's going to go. But that was an interesting one for that Mega Man Battle and Chase, where it is Mario Kart adjacent, but it also kind of isn't. And yeah, in that case, yeah, that's really mean, because I used that reverse control thing, and then he goes off the clouds and falls to his death. So there you go. Yeah, Solomon is not screwing around. Okay, there you go. I guess the case of, and I guess this is consistent with the series, I don't know. Solomon is a trickster? Is that the thought? Or the cats are trickster? Or cats are tricksters? Maybe that's true? I don't know. But still, like, that's an amazing power-up. That Cat's Eye Hypno is fantastic. And help me win. Awesome. Also pointing out, when you tie, you win. So in that case, you will win the tie. I don't know if it works that way in multiplayer, although actually, no. I don't know how much of the multiplayer options I can even see without a link cable. You know, let me put the test. You know, or I'll do that at the end. As far as what's next, Perilous Cup's the last cup, so honestly, we're coming down to cups. We're not ending till we show all the characters. And I'll show all the modes as well. Let's see, so next online is... Solomon was great. Okay, so I only have the extra characters after Gomamon. Okay, Gomamon, let's talk about you. Voice of you. Gomamon, where are you? Okay, let's go Garurumon, that's not that. Let's see. Gomamon, here we go. Okay, Gomamon is voiced by Robert Martin Klein. He is the voice of, Serio Tunan in Tenchi Muyo, or on Tenchi Muyo, specifically the dub that Toonami got for Cartoon Network. He was also the voice of Yase on Outlaw Star. He was Livers in Brave Fencer Musashi for the PlayStation 2. As I mentioned, there's a lot of people from Brave Fencer Musashi in this game. The voice of Katse in Bushido Blade 2 on PlayStation, which is a fighting game from Square. That's an interesting one. He's voiced Morrow in those first 4 Dot Hack games on PS2. That's another theme I'm realizing. The first 4 Dot Hack games, which are Dot Hack Outbreak, Dot Hack Infection, Dot Hack Outbreak, Dot Hack Quarantine is the last one, and Dot Hack... I'll let it down here what the other one is. He's also the voice of Mickey in Suikoden 4. He was Takemaru in Samurai Warriors 3. And also, he was in the movie Meet the Fockers, the 3rd movie in the Meet the Parents trilogy, as Mo Fokker. But, yeah, as I said in my review of that movie, fuck this movie. Because it's not very good. Compared to the first one. You know what, fuck it, I may as well say it now. That's the same with the Super Mario Galaxy movie that just came out. Let's go into this, as we also take a look at Gomamon, whose speed is amazing, but handling and acceleration is not a good case. So, last cup, we're gonna go into this. It is Perilous Cup. Yeah, not perilous territory. I'm going to talk about this because, yeah, it's caves, polar, mountain, and the other place. Let's go. Yeah, I went to see Super Mario Galaxy movie last night. I do need to go on that because it's going to be making $1 billion as far as how it is. We're big as far as gaming stuff, so I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. I was looking forward to it as well. It's followed, by the way, to the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out 3 years ago. It was, like the last one, it was by the same directors whose names escape me. Edit down below who they are, indication below who they are. The first film from 2023, just to go into that, was basically them having the animated Case of Mario and the first return of him to movies since Super Mario Brothers from 1993, which is directed by the creators of Max Headroom, believe it or not. That movie, which we're pointing out, which starred Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo as Mario and Luigi, was indicated by Bob Hoskins prior to his passing as the worst experience he ever had as an actor, based on how the direction was and the way that the production went, to the point where him and Leguizamo were constantly inebriated and high on the set of the movie. And so then, in that case, for a while, Nintendo said, okay, we're not going to do stuff with movies because this turned out really bad for us. It didn't make money. Back in the day, it was seen very badly from critics, but also apparently movie fans and also fans of the game. It's not like the games, just to go on that. But then again, I've always talked about difference of medium, saying that what works in a game doesn't necessarily work in a movie and vice versa. And same with books. The case where I've seen adaptations of books where do they work in a movie the same way that they work as far as a book? Not always, but sometimes they do a great job. And you can have that going anyway. As far as like his book case, I'll say this. Something like No Country for Old Men. That's an adaptation of the Cormac McCarthy novel. As they have the torpedoes going on, that's pretty nice. That's a great adaptation of that book. People think like, how do you turn that into a movie and make it feel like you're reading the book, but also do what movies do as far as being a special case of it, and it's terrific. But anyway, as far as the Super Mario Brothers movie first one came out, it was Illumination who was involved as far as the animation studio, them behind the Sing movies, the Despicable Me movies, and the Secret Life of Pets films as well. The first one I kind of liked as far as how it was. I said on this show, and I just still stick by this part of it, it is the best movie of Illuminations, of which, to me, the only movies that there is that I've liked have been Despicable Me 2, The Secret Life of Pets, but even then, that was a mild recommendation. The Grinch, again, a mild recommendation, but I did go for that one. And that was it. But it was a case where it was criticized at the time as a cynical product that had nothing going on as far as story. I disagreed with that, and I do still disagree with that, because it does have the perspective of Mario and Luigi having to try and find themselves as far as, I guess, people not believing in them, because they want to open their plumbing business, which actually there's a really funny thing in the original movie as far as that. And I thought the animation sure looked good, and the voice acting was good, and there was a good case enough to give a sense of like, hey, this feels like Mario, more than the other one did, as far as from the 90s. But then the Super Mario Galaxy movie came out, it came out on Wednesday, on April Fool's Day, as it was. I went to it last night because they said, okay, video game case, we gotta talk about it, and we're gonna. I kind of hated it, I gotta say, and I get really shocked to have to say that. But I said I also will be honest about that, and also I will say this. In my past, but also still in my present, I'm also somewhat of a movie person. Actually, before I did this show, constantly, I'll tell you the story. I used to go to basically every movie around as far as it, and also there's the idea that since I have an AMC theater near me, they have their AMC Stubs A-List membership, where back in the day, it was a case where you could get, basically you see 3 movies a weekend, and you can see any movie as far as what they have on any screen. So it's a case if it's showing in IMAX where the ticket's like $25, I could show like 3 movies a weekend in IMAX as far as that. So I was making out like a bandit as far as like the monthly cost on that, like going to the movies. It's now 4, so it's actually even better of a value as far as how it is. But basically for a while there, I basically went to see everything. People say like, oh yeah, you gotta go see something. Like what I want, or they say, hey, I want to go see this. This is worth my money. They'd always ask me, like, what do you think? You've seen basically everything that's around. even stuff that's in limited release, because it's a case where, yeah, I want to get a sense of that too. When COVID came around, I stopped going because the theaters closed, but also even after that, it was something where I did still see movies every so often, but then I said, oh, you know what, I'll stop going constantly. So actually, I've not gone constantly. I've gone to stuff over the months and years, as it's been since the start of the show, but I also then was realizing, okay, the show can be an avenue to kind of talk about some of these when they fit for certain things, and sometimes I've gotten questions about that. Like when we did Knuckles Chaotix, I was asked, what do you think of the Sonic the Hedgehog film? Because the first one was the only one that existed then. And when Super Mario Bros. Movie came out, that was Sonic 1 and 2, those movies were the only two that existed. But now we live in a world where Sonic the Hedgehog 3 came out. And as far as Super Mario Galaxy movie is concerned, the one that opened yesterday, it's not just a come down from the Super Mario Brothers movie from a couple years ago, but compared to Sonic the Hedgehog 3, man, this is some weak sauce. Including the fact that there's not really much of a plot on this movie, or it's not a case where they're even trying to have one. Or as I said earlier with this game, I said, I don't know much on Digimon, but I think this game is giving enough of a perspective that makes me want to find out more, and also a case where I can still enjoy it despite that. But even though I know a lot of stuff on Mario, the Super Mario Galaxy movie, first off, it's not following the story of Super Mario Galaxy, if that's something that you're wanting to get a sense. It does have Rosalina in it, as that's indicated, who's voiced by Brie Larson, who won an Oscar for Room back 11 years ago when that came out. It was a good performance she gave, so I can understand her winning that, as was. She's not in the movie much, though, and honestly, the movie only kind of follows Super Mario Galaxy in a very cursory way. A couple areas they go are kind of similar, and Rosalina's in it, but not for long. And it twists stuff around, which I don't have a problem with that, just to indicate that, saying that, oh, it has to be a direct copy of the story of Super Mario Galaxy from the Wii. But then again, it's also something where, honestly, I think the story in Super Mario Galaxy, there's more going on in that plot than there is in this movie's plot. And I also I'm gonna have to get a sense of this over the months and years. And I always wonder if Brie Larson herself will open up about this, because she said, hey, I love Super Mario Galaxy, I'm very glad to be Rosalina in this movie. She's good as far as the voice performance, even though she's underused. And she's not the only one who's underused. But I get the sense there's scenes of this movie missing, because there's character motivations that come out of nowhere that don't really make much sense. Man, I got some good distance flying off that, didn't I? Cases where, I guess, because the plot of the movie, as little as it is, I'd argue if it even has one, but as far as what the story of the movie is, the idea is that Rosalina, she is kidnapped by Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. is voiced by Benny Safdie, who co-directed Uncut Gems and Good Time, and he kidnaps Rosalina because he's looking for Bowser, who was shrunken at the end of the last movie and then is being held by Princess Peach, who's once again voiced by Anya Taylor-Joy from the Queen's Gambit and Thoroughbreds. I love Thoroughbreds as far as movies with Anya Taylor-Joy in them. But as far as that, he's shrunken, he doesn't know where he is. And then so Mario and Luigi, they say like, hey, you know, they get a distress call, but then Peach says, oh, I'll go and see what's going on with this Luma that came around who said, hey, you know, our mama was kidnapped, that's true to Mario Galaxy, because the idea is that Rosalina is the parent of the Lumas, which we sort of showed because we did demo Super Mario Galaxy very briefly on the show about 2 years ago. But then Peach goes off, and then it's basically up to Mario and Luigi to take care of the kingdom. But then they hear, as far as with Bowser, who's shrunken down, and he claims he's been reformed, but is he actually? And then he says, like, hey, can you help me get my son back, or reunite me with my son? They agree, and then the question is, like, hey, what's going on with what Bowser Jr. is really planning as far as what it is, and also what's the idea of Bowser's, I guess, allegiance, because they say, hey, he's reformed. Luigi believes he's reformed because of things that we haven't seen. I don't know what comes of that necessarily, or where that came from, but that's the idea, and it kind of is sort of a bit of a chase across a bunch of different places. A lot of in-jokes of Nintendo. A lot of characters that the movie has given indications of in trailers. One they haven't, but one that Nintendo spoiled before the movie came out. Now that I've seen the movie, it is a massive spoiler. It is online. I will not mention what it is. And Chad, if you say in the chat what it is, because you've seen this movie, I will not read your comment now, with all due respect, because I'm going to hide that element. It's also telling that it's also the only character in the movie where when they introduce them, they actually give a backstory to help people who don't know what it is understand who it is, why it is important, and what is the context of it. And also to people like me who know the games and know the stuff they're referencing, gives me a perspective saying, hey, this is something really cool seeing as far as in the movie. That's the only character they do that with. They don't do their Yoshi, because Yoshi is in the trailer, so we know Yoshi's here. But they show you one line, show one perspective of what's going on with him, how he kind of has a nice day out in Brooklyn, but then the movie even comments on this and says, like, oh, Yoshi's here now, and we just have to accept him. Like, that doesn't make it okay. It's like, I want to know more on Yoshi. They don't do much with him. And it's Donald Glover who's voicing him, who is Lando Calrissian in Solo. But it's kind of nothing, really. It's like, he's there, but what does Yoshi do? I want to know more on Yoshi. I want to know the backstory of Yoshi. I mean, I'm not looking for a literature case of itself, but I want to see more on Yoshi. Or cases like, hey, they're going to hire Issa Rae as far as the Queen Bee. She's in one scene. And that's something they indicated before the movie came out. And then one of the characters played by Luis Guzman. I was excited because, like, I love Luis Guzman. I loved him as Diaz in Grand Theft Auto Vice City. If I can figure out how to show that game on the show, we'll hear him then. And he's a great character actor going back across the years. But he's in one scene. It's like, what's going on with that? So that was a problem on top of it, but it's also something I was kind of dulled into submission really by this. And I couldn't believe the fact that, as I'm not winning. What, did I win? Okay, it'll tell me if I won. Okay, I got silver. Never mind. Okay, so I got silver. But for me, it starts out okay, but something as it goes along, I was kind of shocked saying, wait a second. Why are all these characters changing their perspectives on a whim? What's going on with this story? They have an element of, like, Peach's backstory, which the first movie kind of ruins, actually, now when I went back to it. But it's also something that... It's also a ripoff of something that if I say what it is, it's also going to rip off what it is. So I'm not going to indicate what that even is. As... Okay, the last thing we'll show off is the Boss Cup. Well, okay, I'm going to show off with... Oh, let's see. Who have we not shown as far as character yet? Okay, the hidden characters. I guess the Harpoon Torpedoes we had with Gomamon. I mean, well, okay, I gotta show racing with him. You know, let's go to the Perilous Cup again. Here's the Perilous Blast. I think hit the B button, so alright, let's go back. We'll do the Perilous Cup again. And then I will, okay, you know, I'll talk about Guillemon's voice actor. Oh, right, I gotta talk about that specifically. I'll talk about that later. It's a big person. I'll remember who it is. But just finish on the Super Mario Galaxy movie, just because I'm going into this. We'll try and get gold on this, because why not? It's a case where it looks nice. I'll say that visually. It looks great. But it's also the kind of thing that eventually... Although it has some charming moments early on, eventually just something where I felt nothing for this. I'd also got kind of bored by it. I was really resenting the fact that if you don't know Mario at all, you're going to be confused about what's the point of these characters and why is it important that they're there. It's the case I don't think you're going to get much out of that. And it's a big failing in the movie saying that, yeah, if people who don't know Mario can't get much out of it, which I think you get more out of the last one. Yeah, that's a problem, but also for me who knows it, it's like, look, it's easy for... Oh, look, I'll say this. I know why critics hate this movie. They hate this movie because usually a lot of film critics do not know much as far as video gaming. They do not have a background of it. They usually resent the idea of video game players in particular. As far as that, they think like, oh yeah, they're social outcasts or incels or something like that. And the reaction to the movie Joker, I think the first one at least, indicated that. It's also the reason why the sequel to Joker was made the way it was, because they said, hey, you know, I guess Todd Phillips was so browbeat as far as people saying, there's going to be real-world violence on this, and eventually they're basically begging for innocent people to get hurt over it, which they weren't, thank God, but then they were disappointed they weren't. I'll just say that right now. And I know people openly said, you really think that they actually are disappointed that people didn't get hurt over that? I said, absolutely. And then COVID happened the year after that, and I was proven right further. But anyway, point is that a lot of film critics, I hate to say this, including Roger Ebert, I mentioned how much I accolade him. He did not see video games as art, and he oftentimes would emphasize that element. Where I clearly don't agree with that. I get the sense our chat doesn't either. But that being said, a case of, hey, at least it kind of came to the plate as far as a fair case, and as far as this, I know that's generally speaking why a lot of people don't like this movie, but I do follow games element. I follow games and movies to the degree that, I follow movies the same way that I do to the degree of games. I mean, I'll watch like the big stuff that's up for Oscars and things like that, but I also not that kind of snooty person who'll say like, oh yeah, the movie that every critic loves. If I say it's garbage, I'll say it's garbage, and I won't be browbeaten into saying otherwise. That happened when Toy Story 3 came out, where I said, I liked it, but I didn't love it, and people, they went ballistic. They actually said I'm a white supremacist because I didn't love that movie. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? That is true. There was definitely something wrong for me to say that, because I didn't even say anything that would give an indication. But that being said, that's another story. But point is that I understand aspects of games as well, so for Super Mario Galaxy movie, I was kind of taken aback saying, okay, I love Super Mario Galaxy and Mario's games. I like the first one as a movie so much as far as how much I hated this new one that I went back and rewatched the first one again when I came home. Because I said, was I wearing beer goggles on the first one? But the answer is no, that had something going on with aspect of characters, so I could kind of follow that. It did have a connective element to itself, not a lot admittedly, but enough to say, okay, this is Mario, these are all these characters, this is who they are, get a little bit of an arc going on, especially with Mario and Luigi. This one doesn't really have anything like that. And it's something where I said, alright, that had something. And I know the stuff as far as games, but I was just looking at there, just sitting there saying like, okay, this is cool as far as all these Easter eggs they throw in. And the thing I'm saying I'm not going to spoil, that's great. And the one thing in the movie that is kind of exciting and also was done well. And if it leads to another case of them in another movie, I'll take it. But as far as this one, it's a case where I don't think there's much. I like what's in there as far as certain things, but I was looking at it and saying like, okay, I get these references, but honestly, it doesn't mean much. And even as far as just introducing characters and setting them up, I'm curious to see what's the movie going to do different? What's the movie going to do to make it so that I'll want to watch this movie instead of play the games instead? Give me a unique experience, unique elements that fits with what we know of them, but also has something that's unique as far as how that goes. So in that case, I can say, alright, you could play the games, but like, oh, there's something interesting the movie does that makes it go. Same kind of with Sonic the Hedgehog, all those Sonic the Hedgehog movies. Yeah, the plots of some of them kind of go with the games, like Sonic 2 goes a little bit with the plot of Sonic, well, sort of with Sonic 2 with Tails being there, but also Sonic and Knuckles because it goes into the aspect of the Master Emerald with the introduction of Knuckles. And Sonic the Hedgehog 3, most of that is a retelling of Sonic Adventure 2. Not exactly the same. They mute some of the sort of darker elements, but not all. And they do that really well. But imagine that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie if for Shadow the Hedgehog, he just appears on screen and we don't learn anything. Just in case then they say, oh yeah, we're supposed to accept what he is. That's the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And I was really dismayed by that. And honestly, I don't think it gives you any reason, if you're a fan of these games, to say, let's watch the movie instead of play the game. Or it's like Resident Evil Apocalypse. That's another adaptation of a game that is taking off of... Fine, because that's the second of the Resident Evil movies. We made a ton of those. It's sort of a takeoff on Resident Evil 3 Nemesis from PlayStation and Dreamcast. But... And that movie's... I actually kind of like that better than the Super Mario Galaxy movie, to be brutally honest. But... that movie, I was looking at that and saying, okay, there's some kind of cool action in this, sort of, but it also seems like it's kind of empty, and I was thinking, like, everything this movie does, there's other movies that do it better. And same with Super Mario Galaxy movie. There's a Mario movie that came out 3 years ago that does it better. I mean, even the much reviled Super Mario Brothers in 1993 had more dedication to its plot and characters than this new one does. So it was definitely a big letdown for me, and I wish I didn't have to say that. I don't know what other people I've talked to, as far as though I know of, think of this, because I haven't talked to them yet. Because I know a couple of them went to see it on Thursday. I think somebody's going to see it today. And it's making a lot of money. It's going to be making probably over $1 billion worldwide, like the last one did. But I'm hoping for the next one that they have a plot as far as in characterizations, and don't think, oh, you know, that this empty stuff is going to be enough. Because even for a game person like me, it's not enough. I'm sorry. And I said, difference of mediums. Maybe it's a case where there's a reason why Shigeru Miyamoto makes video games and isn't necessarily top of the heap when it comes to producing movies. I hate to say it. Look, we can't do everything as far as that, but also in the case of even the first one, they had something kind of going on with that one. But for this one, no, not really. Whereas the first one I would recommend enough. Not great, but I think it does have some charm, and even the opening of that. The commercial they have as far as, you know, Mario and Luigi saying their plumbing business, that's really, really funny. But for the purpose of this new one, it's not really funny at all. Even the jokes that I got, it's something where I realized, well, there's really no context to if you don't know it, but also in the case, it doesn't seem like, I don't know, it's very exclusionary, but also even in the case for me, it feels like I went to the bat for the other movie, as far as how it was, and this is how you thank me by basically, you basically are doing what, it gets, this is why it gets me down, honestly, when people say that, oh yeah, video games don't have a plot. Of course they do. We played games that have amazing stories as far as what they tell. It's saying, oh, they shouldn't turn them into movies because they're just empty filler, and they're just selling products. A movie like Super Mario Galaxy movie, unfortunately, proves their point. Like, no, that's not right. Even something like Mario, it doesn't have to be, it's not, you know, a massive, you know, multi-layered story like some of the stuff we played, but there's still some stuff there that kind of gives you something to hang your hat on. Like, oh, you get into it. Even with Super Mario Sunshine we played, which has Bowser Jr. in it. The case that, alright, the idea of what he's going through as far as saying, you know, first off, there's the idea that Mario goes to town, to Isle Delfino. He's thought to have committed a crime, so he's locked in jail. Then Princess Peach is kidnapped. Then we have Flood as far as this creation that Egad made. And then we find out, oh yeah, the person who's behind the mask as far as that, like the doppelganger of Mario, is Bowser Jr. It's just like, you took my mama away, that being Peach. It's like, wait a minute, I'm your mother? And then the question, like, where that went with the plot when we played it. So in that case, it did have some stuff going on. There were some kind of personalities going on there. To the point where, and even with Super Mario Galaxy, there's still some stuff there, because the way that game opens, and how much this is in the movie, it must be said, the case where Peach invites Mario over to see the stars, and he's, like, loving that. He's, like, running around with his arms, you know, out, and he's, like, it's like the wistful perspective, saying, oh, wow, the woman I love is coming here, as far as I'm saying, like, coming to the castle. And then Bowser attacks, and takes Peach away, but then the idea, he's blown off, but then he meets the Lumas who help him, and then Rosalina says, like, oh, I'm the person as far as controlling the aspects of the galaxy, and your princess is out there somewhere, I can help you get there. In that case, it does kind of have something driving underneath it, as we got second place. So, in that case, it did kind of go into a way. I'm thinking, I don't think it's necessarily a case of saying, no, you can't do that in a movie. Or saying that, oh yeah, necessarily is a case where it has to be extremely complex. I mean, hey, people are probably just going to this for looking for a fun time. And I was looking for a fun time, too, as far as that. I wasn't necessarily thinking this would be a complex movie, necessarily. I mean, I went to see Hamnet a couple months ago, which Jessie Buckley won the Best Actress Oscar for. I'm not expecting a movie necessarily like that exactly out of Super Mario Galaxy movie, but still a case of thinking like, well, I don't know, it just felt empty to me. And it was a case where I was really disappointed. To me, as I said, it's a 1.5 star out of 4, as far as the 4-star thingy, which is, for the character thing that I'm not going to mention, which is great. And hopefully they'll make a movie on that. Hopefully it'll be decent. Hopefully the Zelda movie will not be, you know, like this. If it is, people are going to have a problem with that, and rightly so. And it looks good, and there's some decent moments, and the voice acting sort of good, but whatever. It's a wash. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it. Probably wait to video, but if you're going to have a good time, I'll be fine with that. Like, yeah, if you have a great time, you have a great time. It might be something kids might like, but I think the first one's better even as far as that. So, alas, that was the problem. Okay. that was kind of going a lot of different directions as far as that, but I figured I may as well do that. Let's talk also about the voice of Gulmon. In fact, I'm going to go back to the menu to indicate that. Yeah, Gulmon. Yeah, this is someone very famous, by the way, who, as it turns out, we have not heard him on the show until now. He's also the voice of Flame Dramamon and Growlmon. He's voiced by Steve Blum. Yeah, we have not talked Steve Blum on the show yet, believe it or not. Okay, we haven't had him in a game. We've talked to him a couple times. He was the voice of Tom from Toonami. Remember him, the robot guy who was part of the intros and had kind of like a backstory going on. We mentioned we played Sailor Moon of the story in the case of his intro. He had intros to every show, and for Sailor Moon, he said, this one goes out to all the ladies. So yeah, he's Tom from Toonami. He also was the voice of Sid in Full Throttle, the LucasArts game from the PC from the 1990s. He was Makoto Shishio and Toma Sasaki on Rurouni Kenshin. He's the voice of Goku in Dragon Ball GT Final Bout for the PlayStation. That was the first indication of Dragon Ball anything in the United States before Ocean did dubbing of Dragon Ball Z and later Funimation. Came out in 1997. It's a fighting game that initially cost a lot of money because they didn't have a big print run. And then when Atari got the license to it, they eventually reprinted it, so it's cheaper now as far as more copies of it getting out. But yeah, he did voice Goku in that game, sort of. At least in the menus he did, because in gameplay he's still Japanese voice for some reason. He's also the voice of John in Brave Fence Musashi for PlayStation. He was Taran in Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos. He was Kevin and Vert in Go-Go Hypergrind for GameCube. I mentioned that a couple weeks ago, that being the extreme sports game that was published by Atlas, and it was having art by John Kuflowski of Ren Stimpy fame, and boy, we'll talk about him eventually when I get that Happy Joy collection. Yeah, it's almost on the level of Rob Smith from Mega Man Legends. Thank God we only have one more game to talk about that piece of shit. But anyway, we did actually... Okay, no, I lied. Steve Blum has, I think, been on the show before. We previewed Call of Duty, the first one. He was Captain Foley in that, although I don't know if what I showed when we did the showcase, or the Delicious Showcase 1 when we looked at that. I don't know if I showed Captain Foley, but he was in that. He was also the voice of Crash Bandicoot and Crash Nitro Kart for PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. And also the Game Boy Advance version, but I don't know if he voiced in it. He's also the voice of Rust in Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay, a game I want to show really badly. That's an amazing game from Xbox. He's also the voice of Sellers in Xenosaga 2 and 3. He was Jamie on Megas XLR. He was Benjamin Keane in Killer 7. He was Bakugan in Final Fantasy 12. He's also been the voice of Wolverine in a lot of aspects of X-Men, particularly a lot of the games. Specifically X-Men Legends 2, or X-Men Legends 2, Rise of Apocalypse, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, all the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, and also on the Super Squad show, Marvel Midnight Suns, as well. And he also the voice of Toro Higashi in Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which we're sort of going to show in a month, because we're going to use that for a show I got coming up later, when we're going to... It's going to be an appendment of sorts. It's going to be part of the Sonic the Fighter's second chance we're going to do. But yeah, it is Steve Blum as far as that. But as far as Vmon, that's the other unlockable character. By the way, you unlock Goemon for getting medals or getting cups, or winning all the cups, or getting in place, I believe, in all the cups. Vmon you get for going through and getting medals for all the quick races for every course. Vmon as well as Demivemon, so I guess he's is that one of his other forms? I don't know. He's voiced by Steve Pritz, who was also on Rurouni Kenshin as, or Rurouni Kenshin, I should say, as Sanosuke Sagara. Let's see. He was Elgar in Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, and on Power Rangers in Space. He was Ein in Ite Iris Eternal Mana for the PlayStation 2. He's Jake in Ape Escape Pumpkin Prime for the PSP. He's the voice of Vexen in the Kingdom Hearts series, so we're going to hear him eventually when we get through some of those. He's Takaya Sasaki and Takaharu Kajiro in Persona 3, which we're going to do a scoping session of later this year at some point. He was the voice of Oswald in Odin Sphere for PlayStation 2. He's Naoki Konishi in Persona 4 Golden from PS Vita, and also the modern versions of that. And yeah, I think that's about it as far as him, what I got. So let's take a look at Vmon. We'll show the boss cup. We'll also show the other races as far as it. And then when we do that, maybe we'll be done sooner than I thought. In that case, since I already got my aspect on Super Mario Galaxy Movie out, I was thinking of pulling out Mario Kart Super Circuit just for the purpose of that, but I don't think I'm gonna. Alright, so as far as Vmon, he has the Flame Shield. As far as how his case is, he's pretty average for most stats, but he's got better speed, so actually that's a pretty good case. So let's run him. So first boss cup, and then we'll show the other modes. Because I did go through all the cups, it seemed like it went pretty quick. But how boss cup works is that you basically just fight all the bosses in a row. This is the last of the challenges. I believe this will give us the credits for this, but if it doesn't, I'll also go into the options and show that later on. Okay, so yeah, he's shooting me with this. Oh, right, I forgot. You can also trip over that way. Crap. All right, I was too late to get the shot. He's kneeled, right? Oh, he's not. No, alright, when you get hit by the Supreme Cane, you get bubbled, but you do have an element there to get him set. Alright, come on. Oh, no. Okay, I guess also in the bosses, you do not have... Oh, no. Yeah, we Digivolve, just had that set. Oh, this is gonna be close, because I'm running out of time. Come on, kneel down. I gotta beat you. Oh, right. I forgot he can also do that. Oh, right. I forgot when he hits you. Oh, right. I forgot when you're in your earliest form, you can't use your weapons. All right. I'm gonna lose this then. Now let's show what losing these look like. Actually, no, I probably should lose all of these just to show what the loss screen are. Also, I guess then... Okay, so if you lose a boss, you lose the boss cup entirely. I did not have that happen in my test, so... Alright, glad to show that. Alright, I'll show all the bosses being beaten, or being lost to as well. But I'm gonna go through the boss cup and beat him. Alright, so that's the other reason you want to have your Digivolve set, or your Digivolve form ready, because when you get hit by things, it drops at number 1, and number 2, if you're too low, you can't use your weapons. Oh, there you go. Turn around, turn. Ow. Like, I hit him. Perfect, okay. Whoa. Whoa. Actually, I never noticed that before, like, the factory machines going on, the cogs on the side. Alright, we got them. Yeah, sorry, you're getting bubbled. Okay, so now we're going into you. I need to get some energy. Get some energy and get weapons. That's really what you want to focus on doing. Oh, no. Alright, hit. Where is... Alright, I forgot. He's on the map. Like, watch the map and see where he is. Oh, no. Oh, well. Whoa. Oh, he's over there. Oh, no, but I gotta get myself set on energy. Yeah, just wait till he kneels down. Wait, he is kneeled, right? Yeah, he is. Okay, there you go. Perfect. Whoa. Sit here and wait. Whoa. Okay, yeah, it doesn't go fast as far as a shot, so in that case, yeah, you can kind of wait before you do jump off. Okay, got him. Okay. Alright, last, let's go. Also, I don't think you can do the boost off the line for these. I just don't think you can. Although, to be fair, okay, there's sort of a benefit if you could. Maybe I'm just not getting it. getting timed out right. Oh, crap. Okay, that's fine. I got an item, so I'll be set going on here. Ah, crap. Okay, yeah, I guess I want to go in the water as far as how this is. Wow. Alright, he's down there, but I also need to get my way in. Oh, here we go. We do have a good set of him. We got a minute and a half from the start, so we're set. Yeah, please do kneel down, my friends. Well, okay. I don't know how I avoided that, but I'm not gonna complain. Yeah, well, he should be fine. Just gotta wait for him to do that. There you go. Just wait for him to go down on his knees and you're set. In this case, it'll give me the opportunity to grab an item before he does it again. Yeah, it should be good. Yeah. Yeah, too bad for you. Alright, so we won. Alright, there you go. So we got the credits. So at least I can show it this way. Okay. We're not completely done. I'm going to show the other characters and I'll show off all the other modes. But honestly, I guess I'm going to not have as much for this as I thought. But either way, as I say, we go where the game goes. And if nothing else, we are going to give a full look. And I'll go into Final Thoughts in a little bit. Also, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look, since I had to kind of go all over the place when it comes to the voice performers I talked about. I just want to make myself aware of a few things. I want to see who we haven't talked about yet. Let's see. I think there's only like one person we haven't talked about yet. I think I talked about everybody else. I'll get into them in a little bit. Okay. But there you go. And yeah, you do get the credits if you do beat the boss cup, because that's the last cup you have. In that case, it takes it back to the title screen. Since we are back here, I'll pick another mode, but I also want to take a look at multiplayer as far as one thing. Seeing, yeah, multi-pack link. If you're going to do multiplayer, you do need to have multiple Game Boy Advances and link cables going on for the purpose of that. In that case, you have to insert the link cable and then turn the power on to the consoles you have connected. For the other one, for the wireless multiplayer, it does a beep because basically it has a little bit of a pause saying, hey, does it see that wireless adapter? I do not have the wireless adapter, so it can't show that. But we'll go to the quick race, I'll show what that is, and then we'll do some time trials. That'll probably be the end of the show. Yeah, I'll take a look at Digimon because we haven't looked at Digimon as far as the purpose of a race. Let's go yellow. Yeah, because you didn't get to show off the flame shield, which is actually a pretty nice power. Now, in this case, you can pick any of the courses in the game, and you can also pick the bosses. Let's pick the Swamp Bog. And basically how this works when you're going for the unlocks, they give you a target time. And you have to beat that, and I've beaten it on all the courses as far as how it is. And when you beat it for all 12 courses, actually, Digimon is the character you unlock for doing it. And in Quick Race, you are racing against other characters, and as we're pointing out, as you go along with these courses, they get a lot harder. So the later courses do have the case where the AI is going to be a little more aggressive. I mean, it is, for all intents and purposes, the same way you're doing races as far as the cups, except instead of doing them in a row, you're doing them by race individually. But the way it operates is the same way. Alright, Flame Shield. Yeah, it is defensive, so you don't take shots, but it also means that when you run into enemies, it does make them spin out. So in that case, it's pretty useful. Whoop. Actually, in this case, he falls in the water, although I didn't cause that. He just did it on his own volition. Also, now I'm thinking about this, I don't think This is a game like Mario Kart where you can necessarily break it when it comes to stuff with shortcuts. I always don't think it is. Okay, but yeah, I did take a risk. Even though I used that nice power mine, it did drain my bar, my fractal bar, quite a bit. Actually, wait a sec. You know, I just realized something. I made a mistake when I said, hey, you know, you have the target time. I'm thinking of the time trials that does that. Basically, follow a target time and you have to beat it for each course. But for this, you just have to win. For the quick races. I think I was conflating the two. It'll save me an edit. Or if nothing else, I'll have an edit before saying, don't worry, I'll remember that's wrong in like 5 minutes. Alright, lightning ball, a lightning thing. Yeah, okay, it looks a little glitchy, honestly, when it hits that, but either way, it's helping me out. I think part of that might just because of the 3D models. I guess there's so many things on the screen, the game maybe doesn't know how to handle it. And the Game Boy Advance is a powerful portable unit, but it's not completely infallible. There you go. Yeah, you're seeing also with the slowdown, that's definitely a case where there's a lot of parts on the screen. You know, since I'm gonna hit this, let me do the dash on the... Yeah, okay, it doesn't. So it's not like Super Mario Kart in particular, when you use the boost on another boost, that it makes you go really far or really high when you're going off the jump. Well, no! Alright, at least they're falling too, so it's a popular place to fall. Actually, the other thing I'll also do before we end, I think what I want to do is I want to show off a race with all the difficulties, because I've been running normal the whole time. I want to see how hard is. Well, even normal's been giving me a decent challenge. Alright, there's Vmon again, and yeah, by doing that you get the nice medal. And I do like how that looks. Actually, I'll do one more race, and I'll pick out the... Actually, no, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go to... Yeah, I'm gonna go to the menu, I'm gonna put on hard. And then also look at the trophy room as the last thing, just to get that going. Oh no, I can't do wireless multiplayer. Why'd I hit A on that? And also show the other HUD as well. Just for variety's sake. Alright, so do another quick race. We'll take Vmon out once more, and then we'll show off Agunimon. Alright, let's take a look at somewhere we haven't been before. Let's go to... or haven't been in a while. Actually, we haven't been in the volcano in a while. Let's go there. There, yeah, just blow them out of the way. Actually, I do like how this looks as far as the volcano. And even the attention to detail when you run across some of the, I guess some of the rougher terrain, because even as far as the, I guess the darker part there, it's almost like there was, or there could be magma there. You do sort of see a little bit of a element going on, like red off of your tires, which is a pretty nice effect. So you have some nice details if you kind of stop and take a look. In cases where they didn't necessarily have to go to that detail, but I'm glad they did. Oh, okay, I see how the interface is going now, because alright, what it does is I forgot I turned it to the other one. Basically puts the bar down on the bottom left of the screen as opposed to the top left. So actually in that case... Ow. Okay, so you push the items down there. Okay, there you go. Alright, so yeah, if you want the interface down that way, I think it also sort of changes the border a little bit. Then you're set. Yeah, that flame shield is nice, but it did drain the bar, so that's going to be a bit of a problem. Actually, Vmon's pretty good as far as how a lot of his stats run, and also the fact that he basically is kind of average on everything, and then speed's a little better. It's actually, that's really nice. Whoa. And it's actually, yeah, the last character I'm going to show, it's not a case where there's like any character who's like 5 in everything. That would be amazingly broken as far as how that happens, but it would also be a nice reward either way we won. Alright, that's a good way to show Vmon off. And then last on the list as far as our characters, we got the nice gold medal there. It is... Actually, I don't know if even the last voice credit I have is this person. Let's see. Agunimon. Let's see. Agunimon. Yeah, it's weird. I just took them in the... Oh, I took these in the order that they were, but still. Agunimon. Did I not take his perspective down? Yeah, there's one other person. Actually, maybe this is it. Is that right? You know, I want to check this myself. I want to make sure that I'm right as far as Agunimon. Maybe I took the spelling down wrong when I did it. That's Michael Rise, as far as who voices him, from what I'm seeing. Okay, as far as the other character who we didn't talk about, Angemon. Hold on, where's Angemon? Let's find this. It's Agumon. Or maybe it's something else. Okay, so is that right? I want to get that sense down. I want to make sure that I'm getting this character down right. Okay, Angemon? Actually, wait a minute. It's probably one of the bosses. Actually, let me go back to the bosses. I do want to show that. Alright, I'm gonna go back to the bosses. I want to actually look at one of them. I'll take, Agunimon, as I mentioned. Yeah, he's, average except for, handling, which is, bump up. Actually, let me just look at each of the bosses individually. Devormon. Omnimon. Okay, so I don't know if they have this right. I guess Angemon is in this game. I'm trying to remember where we saw him, unless it's a case where it's on the course. But alright, I'm gonna give credit this way. It's alright, I forgot. We're gonna show off the character. Now I'm in cup mode anyway. Let's pull a cup out, why not? Let's pull a cup that's not... You know, let's go back to the Western Cup. Why not? Fine, I'll mention this at the end of this race. And then I'll show the other modes. I think that's going to be the end of it. Honestly, I guess I covered more. I guess I covered all this quicker than I thought I would. In that case, I won't take away from this by saying, oh, Mario Kart now. Like, I just need an excuse to talk about how the Super Mario Galaxy movie is not a good movie. Which I don't know if people are going to like me saying that, but hey, I gotta be honest. So, there you go. And I told you why. So, that's the idea. But that was the only reason I was thinking of pulling it out as far as tonight. Although I did before say, oh, you know what, maybe I should. Alright, look at that thing. I actually did quite a blast on everybody. I was thinking doing that to compare and contrast against other kart racing games. And honestly, in this case, I think, you know what, I got like 3 hours about out of this game. We'll have like 3.5, so that's pretty good. At that case, we'll do Mario Kart Super Circuit another time. And also, next time we come back to Digimon, I think I mentioned this earlier in the show, we're going to do Digimon All-Star Rumble on the PlayStation 3. I was requested that by Reese the Worthy Doge, and I would just have to get a scope of what that's going to look like. When I do, I'll get a sense and I'll announce when we do it for the show. Alright. So yeah, he shoots out that nice bullet, or that nice fireball. He does handle better, although it is a case where he kind of handles wider, I'm noticing. Okay, I see he was spun around, so he's coming back towards me. Actually, right, I'm on hard. I'm trying to get a sense of, like, what's the difference on hard. I don't know, maybe I've just gotten better at this game, so it doesn't really matter. Whoa! Okay, right, I thought I could take that shortcut. going through the mud, but I guess not. Yeah, and it cost me the race. I guess put my fire out. Sorry, Agumon. Alright, so back to Toy Town. Actually, maybe as far as, Angemon, I guess it is, maybe one of the creatures walking around the course now. Because I get that being the sense as far as it a little bit, too. Alright, let me try and get another power and then get going. Yeah, but I'm having fun doing this, and as I said, if nothing else, it's also something where, for a game that, I guess I'm maybe repeating my final thoughts a couple times just as far as that, for a game that you think, would this really have anything to offer, and that, like, hey, this seems like shovelware, like, I don't know if I'd say that, that was a good shot on the bubble. I think this does have some interesting things. Especially given the people who made this. I mentioned it's Real-Time Associates Seattle, or there was the company that was them. I'll take this over Rugrats Scavenger Hunt. I guess I'll go to that because I had memories playing that one. I was a big fan of the Rugrats going back in the day. So when the games were starting to come, I was like, oh great, there's video games based on this. The first one was Rugrats Search for Reptar for the PlayStation, which is a game I do want to show off. It's pretty interesting. And initially the thought was they were going to put that on Nintendo 64 as well. The idea that they were going to initially port that game from PlayStation to N64, but they said we're going to go a different direction then. So what that game is, just to indicate it, it's a board game that has 3 boards. It came out about 4 months after Mario Party came out. So it did create some, I guess, a little bit of a competition going on there as was, but it isn't like Mario Party even. You're like, oh, is it a rip-off of Mario Party that quick? No, it's not. It's basically just a board game where you just are doing a spin of the spinner, and then you have to go around, find items, like do a little bit of an identification around the area, and that's it. Oh, shit. Okay, yeah, I did see that. Sorry, there's some graphical oddities when it comes to that lightning bolt, so I guess that's something. But the thing is, there's only 3 boards in that game. There's one that sort of plays uniquely, but most of them kind of play the same. And it's also something where it's really slow and monotonous, and also it's another case where the game openly kind of comments on the fact of it, because as was always the case with the Rugrats, you get the sense the kids said things that were incorrect. As far as when they hear adults use words, they kind of say it wrong. And sometimes that can be really funny, but in the case of that one, they're saying, like, the setup is that Dee Dee says, oh, I want to play a board game with the family. We haven't done that in a while. And then Tommy's never seen it before. He's like, what's a boring game? And I was like, yeah, Rugrats Scavenger Hunt is a boring game. And you're playing it single player. It's like, yeah, you can add AI, yes, but outside of that, it's like, yeah, you want to play this with more people, but at that point, if you're paying $60 for that thing, you're not getting a whole lot of game out, especially compared to Mario Party, which is a way better game. Actually, that was one of their few console games we're pointing out as far as this team. But Digimon Racing, I think, has more to offer for this. And also, when this game came out on Game Boy Advance, they weren't asking $50 for this. They were asking like 30, maybe 40, depending on where it went. But I think there's a decent amount of content here, honestly, for that price. So in that case, as I said, as far as ranking the games of the developer, I'd say Digimon Racing is kind of the way to go compared to Rugrats Scavenger Hunt. Another case of a licensed game, but also a case where I think this one kind of does it better. And also, Rugrats Scavenger Hunt didn't look that great as far as the visual thing. This one does look pretty nice as far as what the Game Boy Advance does, but that one really looked off as far as how it was. I mean, not that Search for Reptar is necessarily a looker. You're going to see that when you look at that game. There are definitely issues with the graphics of that game, no question. So, it's not like that game is perfect visually either. But that one is a bit better as far as how it has certain things going on. Although, the controls and camera in that game are a real pain. So that's something we'll get to when we get there. As far as other Digimon games show on the show, aside from Monster Rumble, which we will show, that'll be the next one. I know they're the Digimon World games, of which some of those actually are kind of expensive, particularly the ones on the PS1. But outside of that, let's see. I know there's the more recent one, Digimon Story Time Stranger. That's by Mediavision, the people who made Wild Arms, which is a game I know I think we'll probably show that on the show at some point. I know Kazum22, he loves Wild Arms. He exposed me to that game. That game is amazing. It's an RPG from PlayStation 1 that's kind of Western themed. It's terrific. It's so much fun. It's really interesting with how it tells story, with how it looks, and also with its combat. The combat system in that is amazing. That's a fantastic game, and I definitely can't wait to show it. And they made a couple of those. I think they made a couple of like those Digimon games. I think Electra's mentioned one was like Petrosphere. And there's DLC they just announced for Digimon Story Time Stranger. It's also getting Switch and Switch 2 versions in July, but next year they're having a DLC episode that's going along with that. I've heard that game's awesome. In fact, I've heard a lot of those ones Media Vision made as far as Digimon were really, really good. I've not played them, but they look really cool. I know there was the one that was like a visual novel. I'm trying to remember which one that was. As far as other stuff, actually, there is Digimon Rumble Arena, which actually All-Star Rumble is kind of, from what I've understood or what I was told by Reese the Whirling Doge, it's kind of was the predecessor of the All-Star Rumble games as far as Digimon Rumble Arena. The first was on the PlayStation, and the second one was on PS2, GameCube, and I think Xbox got that as well. So there are definitely some interesting things going on with Digimon. I guess if nothing else, it's something where they kind of played around with genres a little bit. But I think it really found its footing from what I've been told from other people when they went to RPG territory, particularly the Time Stranger days. Although I've heard people say they kind of like Digimon World, although it's also sometimes a case of sometimes the Digimon World games being divisive as far as how are they good or not, but they made a ton of them. Yeah, point is, this is our first look at Digimon, but probably not, well, it's definitely not going to be our last. We're definitely doing All-Star Rumble, that's already on the schedule at some point, but I just need to get a sense of when I'll be ready to do it. Because I want it, as I mentioned when it comes to viewer requests, I will not do them until I know that I can bring it to you with the justice that it deserves, or the justice that the people who asked for it deserve. I'm not going to pull a game you asked for next week. I mean, we're not doing Digimon All-Star Rumble next week anyway, but I'm not going to pull that out just so it's like, oh yeah, we finish it, or get it out of the way, but then say like, oh, we're not going into this, not diving into this, not the Super Bowl game Saturday way. I want to make sure we're just savoring this stuff and really kind of having that perspective and going in deep. That's the idea of what we do. And I know that's why I love the fact of all of you wanting to do that with me. So in that case, I said, yeah, I owe you that. I can't just say, oh, we're going to just quickly rush through this stuff. We're going to savor it. And by rush through, I mean rush through it for, getting it set on the show. I mean, maybe we only need one part, maybe we only need a couple hours as far as Digimon Racing here, but wait, is that a wall there? Oh, it is a wall. Okay, that's not. I did not know that. Okay, so, if nothing else, I'm finding new things about the courses that I didn't know. Yeah, but that was kind of my idea, just saying that, okay, I owe you the idea of that commitment and dedication to give it to me, I appreciate that. Really with anything, and if nothing else, this is also showing for this game, but honestly really with anything licensed on portable systems or licensed anyway. A case where I think there's a reason to show it off, and sometimes maybe they can surprise you, or maybe it's a case where you're like, oh yeah, you might love it, or I might not, or I might like it and you don't. So that is doing an interesting thing to kind of go along as well. And I know I've actually been requested that. In fact, Dolly Finn, I know you requested a game at some point. I did buy a copy of this. I mentioned this when you brought it up last year. Oh. Yeah, go in the water by the lightning. You mentioned Tweety's High-Flying Adventure for the Game Boy Color, which is based on the direct-to-video Tweety Bird movie. I remember hearing about it growing up. I hadn't played it. It was from Kemco, developed it. I picked it up. There's some interesting stuff that game is doing on the tech of itself as well, particularly as far as Game Boy Color. So in that case, that's something where I might have not thought to pick it up, but it's not a case of me saying, oh, I didn't pick it up because I feel like, oh, it's better than this thing. No. It's just sometimes a case where a game will come around, I just don't get to it, but sometimes a question of some people saying like, oh, I'd like to see this, what is this game like? Or, oh, I remember having a memory of that. That's really all it takes, honestly, for the purpose of kind of showing it on the show, how that is. Yeah, unfortunately, dead last. But sometimes it'd be interesting to kind of look at that, and especially this game. This game is really interesting, and as I said, for something that You'd think Digimon Kart Racing, excuse print money. Yes, there's more going on to this, but I did not do that great. Yeah, better luck next time, sorry. Okay, so as far as what we got, we did show everybody, I guess I'll mention, yeah, the only other voice performance. I guess Angemon, I don't know where Angemon is. Like, maybe we saw the character across the course or something. I'll mention, unfortunately, this is another case of someone who's no longer with us. That being Dave Mallow. He started as a radio announcer, as far as in his early years, but afterwards he also did voice acting cases, particularly he was the voice of Babu on every aspect of Power Rangers. He's also the voice of Herzog in Halo 2, so we play Halo 2, we'll hear him there. He was the voice of Sarok, Verming, and the Amber Monster in World of Warcraft. He's the voice of Paul Phoenix in Tekken 5 for PlayStation 2. He's the voice of Akuma in aspects of the Capcom fighting games, specifically Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which you know elect verse. Street Fighter 4 as well. He was the narrator of Soul Calibur 4 for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. He was Larks and Wild Dog in Time Crisis 4, and he was Luther Higgins in Project Sylphie for Xbox 360. Unfortunately, he passed away just last year at the age of 76. As far as why, I was not able to find a reason why he passed away, or what he had, or what happened. But I just want to give the honor as far as that's the other thing as well. The other thing when it comes to voice performances, like I want to get some of these names out. People did the direction of the game, people did music, who developed it, voice cases when that happens, and when there's voices to have in game. And we'll give our salute as far as how that is, and thank them for all the memories, even as far as this new memory that I'm making with this game, you know. All right, so let me show you how the time trial works. And in that case, I've kind of shown everything, except the one thing I haven't shown is I may as well go and do this. Let's show the loss of all the bosses, because I figured it seems weird to show that. But then again, it's like going the whole way on this game. So let's go to Cup Race. All right, let's take Agumon out. I guess the face of the franchise, as is. All right, so I lost to Omnimon. Let's go lose to, I know it sounds weird in a sentence. Diaboromon. In this case, I'm just going to time run out as far as how the idea. It's a cool game overall. Well, it's also surprising, because you think, like, okay, if you don't know this franchise, fine, this is also why the Super Mario Galaxy movie thing, even if I came in and liked it, why that's also a pertinent discussion for this. Because in some ways, it's something that, if you look at this, people who love Digimon would want to play this, and probably have, I think so. But also, case of sometimes looking at this and saying, would this be something that would appeal to people outside of it? In my case, it would appeal to me because I was asked for it. Or sort of asked for it. It was kind of suggested it. People said, well, how good could this game be? I said, let's take a look. Let's find out. Let's get that answer. People aren't showing this. Let me show this just because I want to know. I want to learn a lot as far as this. I learn a lot of it. Everything I can on games, I want to learn. People say you know everything on games. Like, I don't, but I want to learn more every time. Even when it comes to a franchise or something that I don't know. Sometimes it goes to that. The idea that based on who you are or age of yourself or what things you got into, and that's the interesting thing, why we'll play any game based on a license, because it's a case of saying, of games we played regarding licenses, as far as stuff like that. Stuff like, I don't know, Batman or Scooby-Doo or Digimon now, or Bakugan, or I'm trying to think of other cases of like licensed stuff we've run. The Lion King, I guess, or Aladdin, or a lot of Mickey Mouse stuff as far as Mickey Mania and the Magical Quest and Castle Illusion, the World of Illusion, and all that stuff. If you know the license, that's going to probably make you want to play the game, but then again, sometimes it's a case of what's going to get you. What's going to go on is Diaboromon is having a good laugh. I guess the question is saying, are you going to want to pick this up if you don't know the license? But then sometimes, in this case, I'm saying, well, okay, you may be like, oh, it's a racing game, and you're like, oh, I like kart racing games, I played Mario Kart Super Circuit to death, like, what's something different? Maybe that would get it to go. I mean, people are probably going to go for a game in a franchise that they know when there's a license, but then sometimes the question of saying, well, you know what, who's to say that idea of, you know, someone coming in cold that way? And also, what can they get out of it as far as, in this case, if you're a fan of kart racing games, like Mario Kart, and you want something different, It does have some unique gameplay elements, and that's the thing I'm gonna say. For something you think, oh, this is just gonna be Mario Kart straight. I mean, it's very much like it. You're right, Dolphin, to say, like, why does it look like Mario Kart? Why am I thinking Mario Kart? Because I guess it is kind of the gold standard, the one that everybody knows. But then, as it comes to, and we'll see this with some other kart racing games we play on the program, cases where, yeah, they took the Mario Kart formula and they said, what are we going to do differently with it? So for this game, they said, okay, we have Digimon. They said, we have these characters in there. That's step one. They then said, how about Digivolving as a concept? That's part of the series. I do know that much, at least. And saying, why don't we turn that into a gameplay mechanic? It's like, that's kind of cool, saying that's something unique. It has an element, a little bit of F-Zero, but even then it has its own element there. The idea of arena-based boss fights, that's something unique. You don't tend to see in stuff like this. So in that way, it kind of stands out as something unique for fans of this enterprise, but also cases of the unconverted, as far as that. And maybe it's a case where, if it's done well enough, or something like that, perhaps, or if you kind of get into the vibe of what it is with the Enterprise, maybe the game itself, then maybe that makes you say, oh, I want to learn more about this Enterprise, but I want to see this. Maybe you find something new that's a favorite of your own. Maybe you don't, perhaps, but either way, it could be something where they talk about the gateway products, perhaps, something that gets you into something, you know? So maybe something like that. And that, in my way, I guess, could be sort of a thing like this. But also, I'm just impressed on this, honestly, on the tech of this, as far as what's doing for Game Boy Advance. Because maybe the case of thinking that, oh, if they have the license on a box, that's going to sell itself. You said with Scooby-Doo, Night of 100 Frights, the case that if you love Scooby-Doo, you're going to want to play it, but then realizing, peeling back and saying, okay, this has some stuff that kind of feels peaceful, and kind of makes it so that fans are going to like it, but maybe if you're not, you might like it too. Let's go in the water. I do love those crunchy voice samples as far as Game Boy Advance, but the fact that it is as clear as it is, compared to earlier systems as far as how that is, that's pretty interesting. That being said, I'm going to show the time trial as far as how it goes. Yeah, this is a unique one, and as I said, for something you'd think, oh, it's going to be a total throwaway. It's not, I would say. So I guess in that case, as I'm going to go through time trial, now I'll say as far as what I mentioned, which is, go to Toy Town, they give you a target time. You beat that target time, you get a medal. And if you get them all, you get a Guilmon as far as character. Basically, that's how you do the unlocks of the characters, and that's what you unlock for the purpose of going through the game. In this case, it's running 3 laps. For this, you don't have items, but you do have your Digivolve, so what you want to do is you want to get yourself Digivolved as soon as you can, and keep yourself going. Actually, I don't think, I'm curious. I don't want to see if, I don't know if why they would give you this. If you give you the, okay, they do not give you the item that comes from filling up that fractal bar. So in that case, you want to Digivolve as soon as you can to keep your speed up, and since you don't have items you're going to shoot off, you're not going to be a case of saying, oh, I'm going to run out of that bar. But you do have to avoid obstacles going around the course. I do like, honestly, how this does incentivize reason to go through the time trial. In some cases, you know, oh, you're just going for best time. Which is fair enough. That's the point of time trial usually in a racing game. Any racing game, whether it's kart-based or not. But for this, they do give you a case of saying, oh yeah, you can unlock the characters on that, because they give you that target time. So in that case, like, oh, what happens if I go through and beat all the time, you know? But also see the perspective saying, yeah, those things are gonna splatter on the windshield. But they're fine, they'll live, don't worry. So yeah, I guess to go to my final thoughts then as far as this one, because I guess we're going to cover it all, as it is pretty much. I don't think there's anything else I haven't touched on this yet. Looked at all the characters, looked at all their forms, looked at all the courses, looked at all the cups, looked at all the bosses. I showed losing to all the bosses, I showed winning to all the bosses, showed the credits, showed all the options for the screens as far as the HUD. I guess difficulty, the only thing I didn't show is I'll show easy. I guess I'll go anywhere on easy. I'll pick one more course. But I said, we had sort of a laugh, I guess, when it came to the play of Twisted Metal. I'll reference to that show, because I think I'll reference that, and I'll reference the, okay, I didn't beat my target time, which is fine. So, I guess then I'll reference to I'll link to those shows, which would be the play of Twisted Metal from PlayStation, and also our full play of Bakugan Affairs of the Court. I believe it was part 1 we talked about, though, just to indicate that. it was a case where we thought like, oh yeah, Digimon Racing, that's an interesting one of saying, you know, that's the one we'd show, or that's a case of saying, is that going to be something that's interesting? I mean, I won't necessarily act like this is the best kart racing game ever, but that being said, I definitely played a lot worse, and that sounds like I'm damning this with faint praise, but I'm not really, because I think this game is pretty good. I think it has some interesting things to offer. If you're a Digimon fan, but I think even if you're not, I think and if you want to dig into the Game Boy Advance's library and find a racing game that's actually better than you might think, I think this is going to be a pretty good choice, honestly. I mean, I guess I'd be curious to see what other car racing games on the system looking like. Particularly other licensed ones, seeing, let's run Easter Cup, or Eastern Cup. I said Easter Cup, like, I guess it will be Easter soon enough, but let's do that. Yeah, I'd be curious to see, like, what some of the other ones, even like something like Shrek Swamp Park, is it good? I mean, there's a couple of, as far as other kart racing games on the system, there's that, there's Banjo Pilot, sort of a kart racing game, a little, that's from Rare. I mentioned Konami Crazy Racers, that's interesting. I have that on Wii U Virtual Console, that's fun. It's fun, and I get what you're saying as far as, I guess, the idea of saying what the way the license goes, and I guess also the idea of kart racing games for the system. Which honestly, you didn't really get that much on the Game Boy, as far as the Game Boy or the Game Boy Color, through the Advance, where they kind of started going that direction. Because the original Game Boy did not have Mario Kart, or not really much like it. I mean, RC Prime was on Game Boy. That was also kind of a little bit different. I get it. I get the idea of it being for fans, but I mean, I don't even know if it's just for fans, though. I think that fans are the ones who are going to want to play this, and I don't necessarily think that they'll look at this and think like, hey, you know, I'm being insulted. I just said, this thing with the Super Mario Galaxy movie, I'll say this. As a fan of that enterprise, I personally feel like I was being insulted, which is the reason I didn't like it, in particular, on top of all the other reasons I went into. But I don't know if people are going to be insulted by saying, like, oh yeah, they're going kart racing direction. Maybe they think, like, I don't know, from a game design standpoint, maybe that's a cop-out perhaps, but that maybe is one thing. But honestly, as far as even not play, is saying, oh, it kind of gets some things down. I get the sense, I feel the Kryptonite Games who developed this, they did put some thought into this. And sometimes a question like how that's like, and I guess we really haven't scraped into really the bottom of the barrel when it comes to licensed games. Maybe we should, or just look at other ones that are like that, or been indicated to see like that, to kind of, I guess, get that picture out, saying that what's going on with that. Honestly, that Ren Stimpy Happy Happy Joy Joy collection, I guess, is going to be an interesting place for that, because it's all the Ren Stimpy games that THQ made. It doesn't have the two from Sega, particularly that Question of the Shaven Yak from Game Gear, which I love that game. And I'd love to be able to show that. I own it, and I would love to have a method to show it on TV. When I can figure that out, I will show it. And Stimpy's Invention is by the people who made World Series Baseball from last week, that being Blue Sky Software. But those THQ games, those have a lot of problems. And yes, they are doing things to go with the franchise, as far as certain things like the visual style is concerned, for certain things, but when you play the game, it feels like... Whereas this game, I can get a sense of saying, okay, it's not Mario Kart, it's not some of these other games, but in its own right, I'm having a fun time, and I don't feel like some of the flaws of this game, which I'd say probably, the biggest flaw is the frame rate. Because there's cases where the game is slowing down a decent amount, but it doesn't impact gameplay or it doesn't impact it massively in the case of saying that, oh yeah, it's gonna make me, I don't know, miss my turns or my jumps to be able to get in a case where I'm gonna get myself in a bad shape for that, I would say. As opposed to this game that's like that, something like some of those Ren Stimpy games. Actually, I didn't show that. When you jump on them, yeah, that is a hazard, so that's annoying, but it's also the case that it's a hazard, saying, hey, it'll catch you in the water spouts, and that's something you gotta be careful of as far as that. Yeah, those games, though, it's the way some of the designs of those work, especially because they're platforming games, as far as how a lot of them operate. Actually, one's a beat 'em up, and actually that's the Ren Stimpy Time Warp. Because I played that game growing up. The way that works, it is a beat 'em up, where you have to kind of hit things as you go along. You have to pick up Gritty Kitty coupons. You have to get 47. But the game lies to you because it actually is not 47, it's 65. If you don't get 65 by the end of the first level, it's an instant game over. The game is, you have to start from the beginning. There are other cases in the game where there are secret things that you have to do that the game does not tell you about that also will result in an instant game over. So you have to put a lot of hard work in. You have to find, you have a trial and error case going on. You can't even trust the dialogue of the game to say you have to get 47 of these coupons in order to continue on. I remember, I'll link to this, the console war show, one of the earliest shows they did a comparison against Ren Stimpy's Invention from Genesis, and it was Time Warp they picked as far as the Ren Stimpy game, because there's 4 on the Super Nintendo alone. And they picked that one, and when they got to elements of gameplay, they said, oh, we're going to do the 2-player on this one. They said, don't worry, it'll be fun. They're like, so they played through, and they said, okay, we got through the first boss and beat that. I was like, okay, that wasn't too bad. I was like, wait, game over? It's like, you have to get 47 of those coupons. Like, yeah, you should have gotten those coupons. You should have paid attention when they said at the beginning. It's your own fault. We'll do it again. And so they played it again. They said, okay, we got 57 coupons. We'll be set now. It's like, okay, that should be pretty good. And they look, it's like, it's game over. It says, we needed 47, you got 57. So like, wait a second. It's like, wait, why is this a case where it's saying that we get a game over, though we got more than what the game asked us for? And they said, well, you know what, how about we try to get all 47 or just 47 on the dot? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, no, this is a great challenge, saying you actually have to get it on the line on this. And so they tried it. And they went through and said, all right, now we definitely got it because we got 47 on the dot. Like, see, wasn't that interesting as far as a challenge? Okay, it was kind of unique. It was like, what? Game over? It says, we didn't make it. We needed 47. We got 47. He says, what's going on here? It's like, we got less than 47, which of course didn't get us this. We got more than 47. That can't be it. That can't be it. We got 47. Last I checked, 47 equals, oh, I don't know, 47. What is wrong with your game? And he looked up, he's like, okay, I looked online, you actually have to get 65. It's like, wait a second, why does it get 65? Why can't your stupid game advertise on the screen that you have to get 65 instead of 47? Why does it say 47? How'd they have this oversight? I don't know, because it's funny? No, it's not funny, it's annoying. So in that case, it's a question on the game design, and the game openly lying to you, saying that, okay, that's the case. You can replay that first level unless you know, well, okay, unless you know that, hey, the game is wrong and you have to get more of those things. Or later on, they have other things where it just instantly game's over. Game over's for you. So in that case, that's a design problem. This game doesn't really have a design problem like that. So even if it's a case where you could say there's other options that maybe go better, it's a case where I'm looking at this and saying, okay, this gets the fundamentals down of how's a kart racing game play. The idea of you're turning, you're accelerating, you're braking, you're doing hopping, jumping, which is unique as far as this, powering your character up, which is also unique for this, and picking up items. It's like, that stuff, it gets down pretty well. The steering gets a little squirrely, I'll admit that, but it is something that you can mitigate for it. It's not something where it feels like, oh yeah, it ruins the experience. Like, I can't control this. And since you have a bunch of characters to play around with, you can kind of play around to find who you want and who's going to be good for you. But also cases where if you know what you're doing, you can handle some of those characters that maybe have trouble with steering or they're really good on speed. Like, you can mitigate that because, hey, you can manage the speed. The same way something like a Mario Kart or something else does. So that's kind of, I guess, in a way, how this game goes and why I would argue that this is our April Fool's Day show, and I said this is the question. Sometimes we've talked about this, saying, are games that people say bad really bad? And honestly, with this game, I don't think this game really got a whole lot of visibility when it came out, in the sense of saying, oh, people reviewing this the way that say, I mentioned Dave Mallows in Halo 2, which came out the same year as this. Everybody was reviewing Halo 2 when that released. For this, I don't think they were, and I didn't remember seeing a whole lot of reviews to get a sense of saying, oh, is this game really good or really bad? I think I'd seen, like, aggregates going on years later as far as it saying, like, they thought it was okay, maybe. But then I said, well, let's take a look at this. Let's understand this. Let's see. Maybe it's diamond in the rough. Although, maybe I'm alone. Maybe people think this game is garbage. And they'd rather play Mario Kart and think, oh, there's better kart racing games, and that, oh, yeah, this doesn't do the Enterprise right. And that's a fair point, too, you know? And I'll understand where people are coming from that way, but as someone who kind of has an understanding and an affinity for kart racing games like this and has sort of a passing knowledge of Digimon, not much, I'll say I had a good time playing this, and I'm having a good time still playing it, honestly. So, and I think that's something that I guess is a good case to say, and something you can't always say. I mean, as I said this, I take this probably over South Park Rally to a certain extent because of the way that the design of it is, even though I know South Park is a franchise better. And in that case, I can get some of the stuff that goes on with it a little more, but also, and I appreciate that tries something different, but as I said, also it's one of those things that maybe they overcomplicate it. They definitely overcomplicated it. Whereas in this game, it's just like, okay, this is maybe hemming more to that formula of Mario Kart, but then saying, okay, what can we do to make this feel like the Enterprise? With South Park, they say, we'll focus on all the characters you can unlock, and also just make it like a capture the flag thing with certain things, with different challenges, and also make it so that you have the adult sense of humor that goes with that, and also weapons to reference elements of the show. Whereas this game says, okay, let's have the Digivolve concept of saying, hey, you know, I get that bar knocked down, I can get myself to my different forms the way the TV show does with these characters, and also get a case of saying, hey, you know, because you want to build that up, you get your speed going. So in that case, it's something where it goes unique to what the series does, but it also says, like, okay, I can kind of pick it up and quickly understand it, while also then digging into a little deeper and realizing, yeah, there are some interesting things here to kind of chew on, you know? And I was realizing that I was doing the practice on this over the past couple of months to get everything unlocked. I was kind of realizing, okay, here's something I can do. It's like, hey, if I'm having trouble going through a course, I can say, let me try a different character. Let's try a different method. Let's try and find shortcuts around. Let's focus on getting that bar set to get my speed up. So there's more to this game than I think I expected. And I think that was the case of what's going on. Even though I lost that race completely because it's on easy. Guess I won. There you go. There's first place. And I think with that, I'm going to go to the trophy room. We're going to show off all of our wares as far as how this is. And I think what I'm going to do then is I guess I'll go somewhere, we'll have some music, and I guess we'll have the end of the show. Because we've covered basically everything for this. And I'll tell you, I had a good time as far as how it is. I'm kind of glad I found this just as an idea of saying, getting this game experience. Look, even if I don't like a game when it comes as far as something like this, I always enjoy the experience of seeing what this is. And sometimes, as I said, we sometimes have a good laugh. Well, in this case, we didn't really have to have a good laugh, because, like, I don't know, I'm kind of having fun with this thing. But maybe people saying, like, maybe the laugh is going to be this, the fact of seeing, like, oh, we're actually playing this game. Thing like, wait, they're not actually going to do this. Like, no, we're going to play it, no question. So in that case, it goes with nothing else. When I say we're going to play a game, we're going to play a game. And it's like, why are you doing this? Like, let's see it. Let's take a look at this. I know ex-guests on this show have said I wouldn't want to watch most of the games you show on your show, which I say fuck them sideways, but also I would say, well, there are other people who might want to see something as far as this, and I'd say, like, sometimes you don't know what you're going to see, and I'm going to want to learn that just as much as you do. And in this case in my life, that's really kind of where I am with gaming, saying I'll play the games I want to play, no question, as far as show and my personal life, but also saying that let's take a look, let's see what some of this stuff is, let's get this perspective. As I said, I've said this a couple times, I guess I'll make it explicitly clear here. I maybe see the show and my aspect of gaming of saying, hey, let's give gaming the legitimacy that I think it deserves. Because of the fact of saying, look, people read books, people watch movies, people listen to music, saying, oh, they can kind of go into deep elements as far as this. Why can't games be having this done? Even something like this, you know? I mean, and it's, of course, if you want to have a fun time. For a game, you want to have fun with it, and that's true, as far as it. And I did have fun with this. But also saying, well, wait a second, let's peel back the layers of this. Going deep in the guts of gaming, would you say? Let's take a look at, okay, take a look at Mario Kart. Let's see, what does this do as far as this genre? What does it do as far as this license? Of what I know, which really isn't much. And let's just see kind of where it goes. So as I said, maybe we can kind of get to a deeper understanding, get myself to a deeper understanding, but all of you bring me to a deeper understanding from what your input is as well. And I appreciate it so much, which is why we're still doing this, and also why, like I said, we'll look at anything as far as how it is, or anything we can show, which is basically everything, really. As long as I get my hands on it, and it's a case where Twitch and or YouTube don't have a problem with showing it, then I think we can make it happen. So that's the idea. So there you go. Those are all the stuff we got as far as all the cups from off screen, but also all the bosses we fought, all the medals for each of the 12 courses, and then the time trial medals for all the time trial courses of all of those, and all the characters we unlocked of Wheelmon, Vmon, and Gunmon. So there you go. That is your first case as far as Digimon with Digimon Racing. I'm going to go to, let's go to Toy Town. I kind of like the vibe of that place. And this case, since I'm just doing the case of this for the purpose of going through here, I'm gonna go get myself Digivolved, and then we're gonna take a park over, and we're going to have this going along. Alright, so let's go into the goop or the energy station. Alright, so let's go here, let's park and say hi to these guys. Hello, hello. So let's get them in the shot a little more. They have the nice base stuff going on. Oh, there you go. Alright, so they have the nice smile on their face. I guess maybe not similar to, I guess bring my element here, Slimer from Ghostbusters as an example. Okay. So there we go. So that is Digimon Racing for Game Boy Advance, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, for our April Fool's Day show, our first, and actually the fact that this game is interesting and is pretty good as it is giving me a sense of saying, I think we gotta show another April Fool's Day game, which I'll have next week. We're on that schedule. But yeah, I had a fun time with this game, and I'm glad I got to show it and kind of understand the idea of it. And for something that seems like it's gonna be a joke, I don't know, maybe it's got something there. And if you're a Digimon fan, you might like it. Even if you're not, you might like it too. If you like kart racing games and you want something unique, sort of unique, and you're like tired of Mario Kart, or you played it so much, like, let's try something new. This isn't a bad option, and it's not an expensive option. It's cost me like $15, $20, $25 maybe, depending how you look for a cartridge on this. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm kind of surprised, I guess, that this is just Game Boy Advance, because you're like, wait, this would be a console game too, right? No, this is just for Game Boy Advance. But I don't know, there's some interesting things to this one, and credit to Kryptonite Games for making it as it was, I guess, or as good as it is for the kind of thing. It's good as, like, let's put out anything as far as Digimon and kids will buy it. But, I don't know, they gave him something pretty nice and pretty fun. Maybe not the best game they ever play, or maybe you'll ever play, but still, you can come away from that and say, like, something like person has said a couple times, saying, I like when I play games as far as that if I put a time investment into them, if I come away and say that my time wasn't wasted, I'm okay with that. It's a case where I say, like, oh, it was wasted as far as that, that's the idea. But for the purpose of showing on the show, there's never time wasted going on as far as this. It's always extra experience. And more look on Game Boy Advance, because I know we haven't necessarily done a whole lot dedicated on this console, which I think we need to change, and we will. And we've shown stuff as far as the Game Boy Advance as is, but other stuff I know we can definitely cover on this thing. And as I mentioned, next time we come back to Digimon on the program, we'll get a Digimon All-Star Rumble for PlayStation 3. That was on the request of Reese the Worthing Doge, and as I said, I will get a sense of what scope on the game is going to look like when I do, and when I get a sense of how long is it going to go, because I don't think I'm going to need it to be that long, but I don't think it's going to be like a 3.5 hour show like this was. When I get a sense of that, I'll figure that out. I'll find a place and schedule, and of course, I'll let you know as far as how that's going, saying like, oh yeah, it's coming up. I just want to make sure that I'm going to do it right for all of you. That's the idea. But also, right for myself, in case where I can come out as far as the show when I stop recording tonight and say, oh yeah, I did justice as far as this to all of you, because I wouldn't have played this if people didn't ask for it. Even if it's just as far as like, yeah, play this, it'll be a funny laugh as far as this. But, like, yeah, still, let's take a look and had a good time. But as I said, when I understand that on Digimon All-Star Rumble, I'll let you know, and that'll be our next stop on Digimon. As far as schedule's concerned, and as far as our next stop for April Fool's Day, because this year we're going to have 2 April Fool's Day shows for you. So our next one is going to be next Saturday. That's going to be on April 11th. It's going to be a classic game compilation. That actually is a case where it should be good, but in a lot of ways it isn't, but also in some ways it sort of is with certain things, but not a whole lot. We're looking at, I'm trying to remember what the name of it is, the Sega Smash Pack Volume 1 for the Dreamcast. It is a 12-game collection of 10 Sega Genesis games, some great games, in fact, all of them are pretty great, but they're emulated very badly, particularly in terms of a lot of the tech going on with them, and also especially the sound. I apologize in advance for how your ears are going to be handling that sound. You're like, ugh, even if you don't know the games, you're hearing that stuff on the sound, like, ugh, it sounds awful, what's going on? Like, don't blame me, blame the people who made the game, unfortunately, because it should have been a great collection. I mean, and we'll handle this the same way we handle the classic game compilation shows, which will have the dedicated one going on as far as that in May, as I'll go into in a little bit. But we'll handle it the same way in the sense of saying we're going to look at everything on it for a little bit of time and cover the gamut as far as it. Because yeah, there's great games in this. We have Sonic the Hedgehog, we have Columns, we have Altered Beast, we have Revenge of Shinobi, We have Phantasy Star 2. We have Shining Force, Legacy of Great Intention. Speaking of great intentions on that collection, the road to hell being paved in this case. We have Streets of Rage 2. We have Golden Axe. We have Vector Man. We have Wrestle War, which is making its debut in the US in this release, and still it's one of its only ports here after all this time. And we also have Virtua Cop 2 and Sega Swirl. Those are not Genesis games, and so in that case, not a problem with porting, and actually they're pretty good. And also, Virtua Cop 2 is a pretty good port of itself, and Sega Swirl is a pretty fun puzzle game. So, kind of complicated one as far as how this collection is, but it's not a good collection. So in that case, everything in it thankfully has been emulated elsewhere as far as the Genesis games, which is really where the main problem is with it, as far as that goes. But, so in this case, nowadays you can get way better collections that have all those games except Wrestle War, although actually Wrestle War is available in the Sega Astro City Mini V unit. So if you get that arcade unit, that is porting the arcade version, but the Mega Drive version that never came out in the US, still only in this. And I can't tell if it's a good or bad game or not, honestly, because I know it's emulated badly, so it's like, how much of this do I put on that? But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting time next week. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then week after that, we've got a Friday show. We're doing Kirby's Dream Course for Super Nintendo. We previewed this game a couple years ago, but it's something I want to come back to Kirby. It's been too long since we looked at Kirby as a franchise. So I said, let's take a look at the first Kirby game I ever played, that being this kind of golf billiards game. Came out in 1995. It's pretty interesting. It's also kind of tough, so I do have some practice I have to do. And also I realized as I was doing setup on this, saying we had to show the extra courses. I will say this, I'll try and unlock them as far as the case of going through on my practice and also perhaps for the show. But since I'm using the Switch Online release of that one, if I don't do that, there is an SP release that they put up on the Switch Online app where they basically give you... they have this for certain games. I mentioned this when we looked at Kirby Superstar, saying where they basically give you every unlock. There is a case where it has every unlock. We will look at every single one of the extra courses as far as that game. And the reason I'm doing that for Friday is because 2 weeks from today, as I mentioned, we're doing a recording of the setup of my account for Final Fantasy XIV. That's going to be off-screen, so you're not going to see it for 2 months, but then I will have it uploaded on June 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, exclusive to our YouTube site. It'll have myself, Crusader64, Chasm22, and AJ42 as the resident experts of Final Fantasy XIV, getting me set for a scoping session we're going to be doing for that game. I think either this summer sometime, either July or August, maybe September. I'm thinking that through as far as when I'm putting that, as far as it. But we'll have that going on, and we're recording in 2 weeks, but you'll see it in a couple of months, because we're going to be off that weekend on the 27th, so that I said, I need off-screen content. That's our off-screen content as far as that, to jump ahead. As far as the rest of April's concerned, April 25th, I think. I don't know if I'm going to put this on the Friday. I'll let you know if that changes. We'll look at Okami for the PlayStation 2. That's going to be our next scoping session. I love this game. It's a game that's celebrating 20 years this year. We're going to look at the PlayStation 2 version as the preview of this great action-adventure game from Clover Studios. The people who made Beautiful Joe and also God Hand is my favorite of the Clover Studios games, as is. And it's a game I'm going to be on camera for because we haven't done an on-camera show for a while. And also because there's some aspects I want to show actually of myself for this one, because this is a game that means a lot to me. And one where it kind of came out of nowhere as far as meaning a lot to me. So I want to share that with you. We will do that for full show eventually, but I don't want to let the 20th anniversary pass without talking about it and showing it to you. And then we get to May. May, we got a nice plate coming up, and we have stuff figured as far as what's going on, because I wasn't sure for certain things, but I know now for a couple of the games we got. The first one is on May 2nd. We're playing Mega Man X for the Super Nintendo. We have not touched Mega Man in a bit of time, and we want to come back to Mega Man X, so we're going to do that. I'm going to play on Super Nintendo specifically. That's going to be, I guess, okay, it is the viewer request, I guess, for May. Okay, arguably there's two, but it's the first new one. Because I know Alec first wanted to see this. He mentioned that is one of his favorite games of all time, and it is one of his favorite Mega Man games of all time. Along with Mega Man 7, which we played last year. Yeah, it is a great game, and it definitely is nice. So we're going to take a look at that as far as we're going to go the whole way with the original Super Nintendo game. Week after that, we got a Friday show that's going to be on May 8th. That will be for Sonic the Fighters. Doing a second chance on that one. Because when I did it the first time, I had issues with the way the mic was set because I didn't set it up right. Quite frankly, I was using this mic for the first time. I did not do audio tests for the mic back then as I should have. I kind of was winging it. And with my old tech, it didn't look as great as it does now. So I said I can do it better. So we're going to come back. We're going to have a second chance of that using the Xbox 360 port of the game. I'll run that through my Xbox Series X, and we're going to turn it into an AM2 game night as well. Take a brief looks at some other AM2 games, particularly Fighting Vipers, Virtua Fighter 2, and I'm going to boot up Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. We'll take a look at all of the AM2 games that are ported into that, specifically Virtua Fighter 3, Virtua Fighter 3 TB, Fighting Vipers 2, Daytona USA 2 Power Edition, Daytona USA 2 Battle on the Edge, and Yoshi Hunter. And I want to show that as far as those games. I'll have that coming along on Friday, May 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we're going to have another Friday show for May 15th. We are playing a game that, I don't know if you know this one. This is the first game in a franchise that is extremely underrated, including by myself. I didn't really know much about this until I kind of got into aspects of game collecting. And particularly when I was diving into the PlayStation lineup, as far as the PS1. Finding some interesting stuff, and some crazy stuff. We got a unique driving game to come on the 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be playing Felony 1179. Probably wondering, what is that? Well, it is the first game in the Runabout franchise. We've actually looked at the Runabout franchise once before on the show. We did our Dreamcast Racing Showcase. I pulled out Super Runabout San Francisco Edition. That's the second game in this series. It is an open world case where you're driving a car around under a time limit to do these very weird things for very weird plot reasons. Where it almost is almost like an Indiana Jones-like thing where there's this weird scepter that you have to take away from mob members or things like that. And you go through an open world to kind of go around, drive and get these things. I guess run around, crash into things, cause tons of damage. Have people who are running around screaming that you can't run over, but you run through, but they're fine. But they're just causing insane mayhem as you're driving around. It's very strange. It has this very interesting music score by this band called the Surf Coasters. Kind of like Dick Dale sound as far as, the guy did Miserably, like... It's like that. It's not licensed stuff. I thought it was when it came to their soundtrack from Super Runabout, the Dreamcast game. I don't think it is. I had to do audio tests. I'll check that just to make sure if I gotta turn the music off. I don't want to. I don't think it is. But it's really weird. It's really interesting, though. I picked this game up for a song years ago, and it doesn't even have the name of Runabout. But in Japan, there are a couple games like this. There's one on the PlayStation 2, Runabout 3, which we never got. There's also a game, I think it's Motor City Mayhem, that's on 3DS. It's also part of this franchise. And there's other games that are kind of adjacent, but aren't exactly part of this franchise. I know one of them was Reckless the Yakuza Missions, which is on the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. It was an early showcase for Xbox where it first launched as a time exclusive, which also was kind of this open world driving game where you're just doing all this weird stuff. Yeah, it is strange, but it's also a game I've wanted to show this for some time. I'm trying to figure out, when can I figure this? How much am I going to need to do this as far as the setup? Like I said, this is a bizarre game, but it's also one that you might find really, really funny. It's also kind of got some rough stuff to it because it's a case where it's a driving game from 1997. It does not have the analog controller supported. It was an early case of it, so you're using the D-pad for driving. Sometimes it's very weird. You have to do crashing into things, but also there's camera cutaways often when you do that, and you also get in cases where you kind of get stuck as far as how it goes. It's not a perfect game by a long shot, but it has this kind of ragged charm to itself that I can't resist, and I want to show it to you as far as it. And I will show it to you on May 15th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the week after that, the next 2 weeks, we're going to be back to Saturday shows. On the 23rd of May, we have Gemini 96 returning for our scoping session for that month. It's going to be for Tetris Effect Connected. We've shown this on the show a couple times, once off screen, once on. And we said when we showed it on screen in our puzzle showcase, we have to show this as a full show. How's this going to work? We want to go through the entire aspect of it. So I said to Gemini 96, who's the reason we showed it on that puzzle showcase. I asked everybody in the circle, I say, what do you want to see when we do the showcases? As far as he said, as far as puzzle game, I want to see that. It was the hit of the night. And I said, you want to be involved for the scope on this? Absolutely. So we'll come back, we're going to take another look at Tetris Effect Connected, we'll take a look at a bunch of stuff and get a sense of how we handle that for a full show. Because we can't just do that in one show, there's too much and so much to celebrate. In that wonderful Tetris game from Resonare, the people who made Space Channel 5 and Rez and Everything Extra and Lumines. And we're going to run the Switch version, we'll run through Switch 2 as far as how it is, but we're going to get a sense of what are we doing with this game. It's a fantastic puzzle game. Even if you don't like puzzle games, that is you have to own it game, for sure. And given the reaction, the effusive reaction of Dollyfin yourself and myself, and the chat when we were looking at that for the puzzle showcase, we all said, you know what, if we could get away with just doing the rest of the show on that game, we were going to do it. We have to go on. But I said, we'll come back to this game, we promise. And I said, we're doing it, no question. To get a sense of how we cover it full, because it deserves it. And then the week after that, so it's going to be actually not on Memorial Day weekend as far as the compilation show. We usually do it Memorial Day weekend, but Gemini 96 said, hey, how about we do this as a change of pace, and it's when I can make it. I said, perfect, let's do it. So the week after that, we're going to have our compilation show as far as in May. It's basically the May compilation show, as is, really. We take a look at a classic game compilation, we look at everything in it, and give it a look. And for this year, go back to Midway. We're playing Midway of the Treasures for GameCube, or Midway of Treasures 3 for GameCube. Played the first one on the PlayStation 2, played 2 on the Xbox, and 3 is GameCube's turn. That being said, as far as the games in it, there aren't a whole lot. We got some interesting stuff in there. We got some really bizarre stuff as well. But I said, I kind of want to do something a little more on that one because there's not a whole lot of extras within that collection, and there also are not exactly a whole lot of cases where, I mean, we have to end it pretty quick. So I said, what can I do on that? I said, well, with that collection, which is rough, I'm not going to lie, it's something where I thought at the time, I said, hey, it's focusing on racing games mostly. But I said, well, maybe there are other racing games we could have put in. I mean, for emulation reasons, that's probably the reason why we didn't get a bunch of those. And I'll go into that as we go with that one, because you can kind of tell. And over the years, we've since found out, including from the company that developed that collection, that certain things they could not get in because the emulation of that was insanely hard to crack. I mean, even they had a hard time cracking some of that for some of their modern classic game releases. But I said, let's take a look at a bunch of arcade ports of Midways for Nintendo 64. So I got a bunch, including all 3 of their cruising games, amongst many others, that will show as a bit of an extra. So it'll be a bit of a showcase and a compilation show. So if we'll show the compilation fully, we'll also show a couple of selected arcade ports, and I guess give an explanation of why they couldn't be in that collection, of which there are good reasons why they couldn't, and I know, especially over the years now, why they haven't been. One of them also we're looking at, Mortal Kombat 4, that's the one I'm particularly indicating when saying, when it came to digital clips. They couldn't have done that back in 2005 for that collection, even if they wanted to. Because when they're saying we were trying to get that set for the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, they said, it took us forever to figure out how to crack this thing. I mean, they were basically at the last minute, they were able to get the sense of saying, how do we do this arcade port? We have to try and do this, and they did it eventually, but it was not easy. So we'll go into that as far as it, and then getting into June, some of that's a little up in the air. I think, although I'm not sure, our scoping session that month is going to be for Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. I have to talk to Edwack and Nikki because I said to them, they didn't want to be in for a full play of it because it's a longer game, but there's some long games I know that they've relented of saying they want to be involved in, particularly with Edwack. He said he wants to be in on God Hand at some point, and Nikki wants to do Crash Bandicoot Graphic Cortex, which we're going to figure when those go. But I said, we finished Wright Ace Attorney, which they love, Nikki in particular. I said, do you want to be in for that? And also, I think they probably would, but also question like what that schedule's going to look like. It's always a question, so I've got to figure that out. If that's not it, I'll figure what else I'm going to do for a scoping session. As far as the weekend after that, or maybe, I don't know, I'll maybe switch this around. I think, tentatively, I want to show Wave Race Blue Storm for the GameCube. Because we looked at Wave Race 64 a couple years ago. I could show that again. but I think, I mean, it is 30 years of itself this year. But we haven't looked at the GameCube version. I think we should show that one. It was between that and the Game Boy Wave Race, which I have that one too. But I think I want to show Wave Race Blue Storm. I think we'll do that as far as it. And also, since we're pointing out, if we do the Phoenix Wright case, that will be the viewer request for that month. Actually, no, it won't. June 20th will be the viewer request for that month. That will be Cool Spot for Sega Genesis. That was requested by AJ42, and I mentioned, hey, this game exists. Like, it does. It's like, it's cool. It's like, do you want to see it? It's like, yeah, I do kind of want to see it. So we're playing Cool Spot. That is one of the best summer games around. So I guess in that case, we're getting summer kicked into high gear as far as how it is. And then that Final Fantasy XIV off-screen show recording in 2 weeks will go up on the 27th when we're out at Too Many Games. And as far as other stuff, I'm not completely sure as far as July. I am looking as far as the viewer requests. I do want to try and just give an idea of some things I'm kicking around. Along with figuring out Digimon All-Star Rumble. I want to figure out On the Ball for the Super Nintendo. I know Lectors wanted to see that. I want to figure out Asteroids Hyper 64 if I can pull that one out. There's something else in that pile I was thinking. What is it? No, Mega X. Never mind. We're doing Mega Man X anyway. Okay. And some other stuff as well. I mentioned some things that I know are going later in the year, which we'll figure that. But for now, that's what we got. I mean, of course, we have the showcase coming up for Game Show Games for Thanksgiving. We'll have some scoping sessions going on later in the year for Indiana Jones: The Great Circle, Persona 3, when Electverse indicates when he'll be available, because I said it's your choice. I'm going to guess October on that one, but I'm not going to speak for him as far as how it is. But when we're going to do the preview program and the scoping session on Persona 3 FES, that's his call. And then Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, the scoping session, that's going to be the last one we do in the year. Might be the last show we do of the year. And then the Tetris game is going to be Tetris Attack, us coming back to it for 30 years, and also Better Tech, so a second chance on that. And then we're figuring out also when Looney Tunes B-Ball, because we had to cancel that show. But we'll figure that. And also, one thing I will let you know, there is a week in September I'm going to be away. I'm thinking of off-screen content. I will say this, just as an indication. It is 30 years since my beloved Pilot Wing 64 came out. I've already shown it before on the show. And I've showed it as far as the Switch Online version as a preview of how it runs. I don't think I can justify another live show for that game, because it's a case where I may as well marry the game. But I love it so much, I might do it again as an off-screen, maybe with a guest, perhaps, as far as something for that in September. That would be September 19th. Or I'll figure something else. I'll have something as far as an off-screen thing for you that weekend, I promise. That's what I'm thinking right now, but that's subject to change. And all the dates are subject to change, but as I said, on our Twitch site, the schedule window, I will have that up there as far as what it is for next week's show. And if it goes down, as far as like the schedule goes empty, as far as that week, that means we'll cancel it. But if I have a case where I can do it, I'll put an update video to tell you as far as on Twitch to let you know as far as what's going on. Alright, so with that, I think that's going to be the end as far as our look at Digimon Racing. I had a really good time as far as this one, and underrated game, and if you like Digimon, or maybe you don't, I want to check it out. Yeah, it might not be the joke you think it is. Not to me, it wasn't. I had a great time playing it. Even if it was a case where I didn't like it, I still had a great time going through this. And thank you so much for the request to everybody out there, even if it was an ironic case, but still a case it's like, yeah, sure, let's take a look, let's find out. And I feel like I've learned a lot as far as how it is, and had a great time. And I hope you all did too. And with that, thank you so much for watching Super Bowl Game Saturday, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend, a great Easter as far as tomorrow, a great week coming forward. I will see you next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Sega Smash Pack Volume 1 for the Dreamcast. A lot of gaming goodness, some not done well, most of it, but some others that are. You're not going to want to miss it. Till then, keep being awesome, have a wonderful night, and take care, everybody.